we have keynotes, all the speeches that start the conversation. And then in the midway, we are going to have a panel discussion where we would also have a fine blend of our change leaders telling their stories. We call something the Change Talks. We'll do that. And then we have a very amazing creative panel discussion, which more or less like it dovetails a type of podcast style conversation. So we're going to have a podcast session here. So all panelists, bear in mind that your conversations are going to go beyond borders, right? Okay, so, and then we'll wrap up with a cocktail networking, cocktail networking session where you still continue the conversations that you couldn't complete. I see a lot of people talking, getting to know who is this, who is that. That's very important. So as we start, and there's this culture that I learned from one of my favorite anchors. He says that whenever you start a program, you look to your right, you look to your left, and you smile to your neighbor and tell the person that you are welcome to Partnering for Change. So look to your right, smile to your neighbor, tell the person, add something that you're welcome to Partnering for. He said, tell the person that he or she is welcome to an event that we are hosting. So I'm putting in there, you're welcome to Partnering for Change. So you have to say it all. So look to your right, smile to your neighbor, tell the person you're welcome to Partnering for Change. There's another person who might be jealous on your left-hand side. So you have to look to that person, smile to the person, and tell the person you're welcome to Partnering for Change. Okay, since we've done that, I think we can start now. So I mentioned the theme of our conversation, women, economic empowerment, and systems change. We are doing this event on the backdrop of a lot of conversation that is confronting, challenges that are confronting women. The International Women's Day is just behind the corner, and it's called, the theme for International Women's Day for this year is Accelerate Action. So we don't have time. In our sub-region, there are systemic barriers that women are confronted with. And entrepreneurs, particularly female entrepreneurs, have a lot of things that confront them in them scaling their enterprises. Aside that, there is a certain narrative when it comes to economic development that we lose sight of. I've heard this since I was in SHS that the backbone of every economy is actually the woman. Because women take a chunk of the informal sector, and so we need to be concerned when the woman is saying that I am struggling. So today, I just want all of us here to put on the cap of thinking first about the woman in the room. So we'll all have to be sensitive. We'll have to be very, very much attentive to the conversations that we'll be having. And please participate. It's an engaging, interactive conversation. Everybody here that's going to take stand is going to share things from the depth of their hearts, from years of experience and working in the development space, philanthropy, and what have you. So it's a serious business, right? So be present. With that said, I cannot be the person to give you a fine welcome address. We have in our midst our CEO of Reach for Change. She's by the name Sophia Brithwolds. Please help me welcome her to the stage to welcome us and give us a quick word. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fantastic entrepreneurs that we have in the audience today. I'm really pleased and excited to welcome you today to Partnering for Change. What is Partnering for Change about? Well, we were just talking about a bit before now during the lunch, how we're living in quite bleak times at the moment. It's difficult to not drown in pessimism when we have the geopolitical situation and the turbulent times that we are living with a lot of negativity around us. But I see that this is an opportunity for us to actually come together in action together and to mobilize sectors in our fight to actually change the world for better in an inclusive way with the sectors that we have at hand around us. And therefore, I'm so excited to look around today in the room, because this is something that Reach for Change is aiming to do. We want to put our entrepreneur front and center, but we want to connect them to the important value chains, investment, capital, access to markets, resources, but we also want to tell their stories. And we want other sectors to be involved in this journey together with us, because we really see that entrepreneurship is a powerful action, a powerful call for change. And talking about women's economic empowerment, this is really also where we see that entrepreneurship is the power to actually lift and to create a more inclusive society. So today, as I look around in the room, we have fantastic representatives, both from the corporate sector, the private sector, public sector, institutions. We have the entrepreneurs in the audience, but we also have investors, we have ecosystem players, and foundations. And I'm really excited that today we also have other partners who are joining us on this journey, and also to understand the importance of coming together for dialogue and understanding each other. So thank you very much to Scania, BMW Foundation, and GIZ Widu for also joining on this. And I think this is quite a significant kind of momentum for partnering for change, that we see that we have one foundation, one institution, and one corporate supporting us, because none of these sectors can kind of create the change that we need by themselves. So at Reach for Change, we have been working with empowering entrepreneurs and local grassroots social entrepreneurs who actually have the solutions to address the most pressing challenges today. We've been doing this since 2012. And we've seen an amazing potential, and many of the entrepreneurs that we have supported across these years are in the room today. I often get the question from other investors and things, we don't see that there is enough female entrepreneurs out there. And I can tell you from years of experience that there are out there. And it's just about us actually creating visibility and storytelling and really creating these linkages so that we can advance the economic empowerment that we all know we need today. So with that, I want to just encourage you all for today's goal to not just be about talk, but to actually be about a call to action for what we all want to create together here. So what I would love to take away from today is that we have some honest conversations about what barriers that entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs, face in today's systems, and how we can bring this cross-collaborative approach to actually solve these barriers and to challenge these barriers. So that's my own personal goal for today, but I also hope that you take with you insightful conversations and that you take with you some connections that you've made during the day. With that, I would be very honored and happy to introduce also the Swedish ambassador to Cameroon, to Nigeria, and to Ghana, who's here with us today. And I would love to introduce up on stage Her Honorary Excellency Annika Hahn Englund.
Thank you, Sophia. So good afternoon, everyone, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to be here with you all today at this very important event hosted by Reach for Change under the theme Women, Economic Empowerment and System Change in West Africa. Today we are gathered to reflect on the significant progress made, but also to recognize the immense potential for further change on today's important topic. In recent years, Ghana has made notable strides in promoting gender equality and addressing gender-related issues compared to many other countries, especially within the African continent. While challenges persist, several positive gender matters stand out in Ghana's development, reflecting the country's commitment to promoting gender equality and empowering women and girls. The empowerment of women in West Africa is not only a human rights issue, but it's also a critical factor in unlocking the full potential of economies. Women are the backbone of this region, contributing immensely to agriculture, trade, and community life, yet face significant barriers to realizing their economic rights, which undermines not only their individual potential, but also the region's collective prosperity. In West Africa, women represent nearly 60% of the agricultural workforce, contributing to both the formal and informal sectors. However, their contributions often go unrecognized, undervalued, and unsupported. In many countries across the region, women struggle to secure loans due to limited access to land titles, financial literacy, or adequate policy frameworks that support women entrepreneurs. These barriers make it more difficult for women to start and scale businesses, leaving them marginalized in key sectors of the economy, stifling innovation and economic growth. As we all know, economic empowerment is not just about giving women the opportunity to participate in the economy, it's about ensuring they have the resources, access, and opportunities to thrive. The barriers to women economic empowerment are complex. Women often face unequal pay for equal work, limited access to land and finance, and lack of representation in leadership positions in business, politics, and government. These challenges are further compounded by the persistence of gender-based violence, limited access to healthcare, and entrenched social norms that dictate the roles women can play in society. Sweden is deeply committed to promoting gender equality and women's economic empowerment. We believe that empowering women is not only the right thing to do, but also the smart thing to do. When women are empowered, economies grow, societies becomes more stable, and future generations benefit. This belief is reflected in Sweden's foreign policy, which prioritizes gender equality across the globe. One interesting fact about Ghana is how Ghana stands out in the African region in the material inheritance line, also known as matrilineal descent. This plays a crucial role in the social and cultural organization of several ethnic groups. One of the most transformative tools for women economic empowerment is education. Education opens doors to better jobs prospects, greater personal agency, and the ability to make informed decisions about one's own life. But education alone is not enough. Skills development, including financial literacy, entrepreneurial training, and leadership development, is crucial to equipping women with the tools they need to succeed in the modern economy. And this also means working towards closing the digital literacy gap amongst women and young girls. And this is one of the key areas where we, as the global community, can make a meaningful impact in empowering women and youth through technology. In many parts of the world, including here in Ghana and in Sweden, women are still underrepresented in the tech sector. Yet, the digital economy presents an incredible opportunity to address gender inequality, not only by giving women access to new tools and resources, but also by enabling them to become leaders in technology and innovation. In addition, empowering women means ensuring that they are present in leadership and decision-making roles. And in many parts of West Africa, women remain underrepresented. In Sweden, we are proud to make significant strides towards gender balance in leadership. We know, for example, that Ghana is continuing works towards this goal too. Sweden's progress has been driven by strong policies such as quotas and mentorship programs that encourages women to pursue leadership positions. More inclusive policy, did it go away? More inclusive policies and greater focus on long-term sustainable development. Okay, thank you. I believe that West Africa can follow on this path. There are many women in the West African region who are leading transformative change, whether as business owners, policymakers, or advocates for social change. Their voices and leadership must be amplified. While individual empowerment is critical, it is equally important to address the system that limits women's progress. One must, of course, be aware that these are different in different countries across West Africa, also across different local communities. Structural barriers such as legal restrictions, policy gaps, and cultural norms perpetuate gender inequality and must be first identified and later dismantled. If we are to achieve real lasting empowerment, one key example is access to land and property rights. In many parts of West Africa, women's rights to own or inherit land are restricted by customary law. Land is not only an economic asset, but also a critical resource for food security and wealth accumulation. Empowering women in land ownership directly translates into economic empowerment. And Sweden is supporting advocacy for legal reforms that guarantee women rights to own and inherit land. Finally, it is important to recognize that systematic change cannot happen in isolation. International partnerships are crucial for achieving lasting change, and Sweden is very committed to working in partners with African nations, regional organizations, and other international stakeholders to ensure that our efforts are sustainable and impactful. And I'm very happy to share with you that the Swedish Minister for Gender Equality, Her Excellency Paulina Brandberg, is actually meeting with her Ghanaian counterpart, our Honorable Minister Agnes Nona Mona Larte, who is Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, and they are meeting next week in New York, which will be actually the first bilateral meeting with the new government of Ghana and Sweden. So I'm happy to announce that. Well, as we reflect on Sustainable Development Goals 5, gender equality, and 8, decent work and economic growth, it is clear that these goals are deeply intertwined. We cannot achieve economic growth without gender equality, and we cannot build an equal society without addressing the barriers that prevent women from fully participating in the economy. Bridging the gaps that prevent women from reaching their full potential must be a central focus of our work when implementing. It is important that men are included, of course, and the entire society for long-lasting and sustainable structural changes. So, in conclusion, empowering women economically in West Africa is not just the right thing to do. It is essential for the region's growth, stability, and prosperity, while we recognize the various different structures and challenges on a local level. Women are agents of change, and when they have the tools and opportunities to thrive, they lift themselves, their families, and their communities. Sweden is committed to working alongside all of you to dismantle barriers, build supportive systems, and create an environment where women can flourish. So let us commit to a future where women in West Africa and across the globe are not merely participants in the economy, but leaders, innovators, and equal partners in building a better world for us all. So thank you so much.
I think we can do it better. We can give a better round of applause to Her Excellency Annika. Thank you for those powerful, inspiring words. And what an exciting time it is for us, getting to know that there are some bilateral meeting that's about to take place between Swedish Minister, the Swedish Minister for Gender, and then our Minister, Madame Lati. I'm looking forward to seeing what the outcomes will be for the ecosystem, and of course, between Swedish government and then also the companies here in our beautiful country in accelerating more or less like opportunities for our women to grow. A few words there that stuck with me, and I think Her Excellency has even changed the vocabulary for me in terms of using breaking barriers to rather saying dismantling barriers, right? Rather than saying breaking barriers, we should say dismantle. Dismantle seems to be a more powerful way to put it. So thank you so much, Her Excellency. Okay, so at this juncture, there are a few thoughts that she shared that I think the next speaker is going to also unpack, particularly on why investing in women, female businesses is a smart move, rather than just some social obligation that we tout or just put across. So I'm happy to welcome Mr. Edward, who is going to be giving a speech on behalf of the UNDP resident rep. He's currently indisposed, so unfortunately he couldn't join us. So the head of governance for UNDP is going to do that. So help me welcome Mr. Edward, head of governance for UNDP.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished representatives from government and private sector gathered here, esteemed partners for Reach for Change, social entrepreneurs, business leaders, policymakers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to stand before you at this very remarkable gathering, Partnering for Change, which has become a vital platform for reshaping Africa's entrepreneurial and economic landscape. As the MC indicated, I stand here giving this presentation on behalf of the leadership of UNDP, and we bring you very warm greetings from United Nations Development Programme. Let's begin with a very simple truth. Women are Africa's economic backbone. And this actually reverberates the point Her Excellency just made. Across Africa, women make up nearly 60% of the self-employed population and lead over 40% of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, contributing approximately 13% of the continent's GDP. Women are the farmers, they are traders, innovators, and business owners who drive household incomes, community resilience, and national prosperity. Yet, despite their contributions, women face structural barriers. And these are embedded in social norms, economic structures, and policy frameworks. And these barriers prevent them from reaching their full potential. These barriers are not just unfair, they are economically damaging. Studies show that closing the gender gap in entrepreneurship could boost Africa's GDP by an estimated $316 billion by 2025. Access to finance is one of the biggest challenges for women entrepreneurs in West Africa. Studies indicate that women-led businesses face a $42 billion financing gap in Africa. Women struggle to access credit due to lack of collateral, bias in lending practices, and limited access to venture capital, despite high repayment rates among women. Addressing this requires gender-responsive financial products, alternative collateral options, and increased investments in women-led businesses. Women continue to face legal and regulatory barriers that limit the ability to own property, register businesses, and engage in trade. Complex business registration processes, unequal land ownership laws, and limited access to government contracts restricts women's economic participation. Legal reforms, simplified registration procedures, and gender-inclusive procurement processes are essential for change. Deep-rooted cultural and societal norms continue to confine women to traditional roles, restricting the economic choices and opportunities. Women carry a disproportionate burden of unpaid care work, face biases that keep them out of the high-growth industries, as Her Excellency indicated, and often leave the workforce due to early marriage or family responsibilities. The solutions include affordable health childcare for women, leadership programs targeted specifically at women, and advocacy for cultural shifts. Women have less access to digital tools and technology, like smartphones, internet, digital financial services, and these further widen their economic disparities. We at UNDP have done recent work together with the World Bank, where we saw some of these digital divides facing women in the MSME sector. Bridging this gap requires digital training targeted specifically at women, subsidized internet access for women, and targeted STEM education, particularly for girls and young women. Many women entrepreneurs operate informally, making it harder to scale their business and participate in regional and international trade. Strengthening business networks, easing trade regulations, and integrating women into supply chains are very crucial ways forward. We at UNDP, for instance, working with our partners, the National Coordination Office of the AFCFTA, have done quite a bit of work trying to understand how women-led businesses can navigate the whole AFCFTA contest. Indeed, currently we have an ongoing trade regulatory audit that is trying to see the real challenges women face, trying to use the AFCFTA as a platform to engage in international trade. Distinguished guests, the answer to some of these challenges lies really in social entrepreneurship, a dynamic force that is reshaping industries and addressing social challenges at scale. So we're no longer doing pilots, but moving things at scale. Unlike traditional businesses, social enterprises blend profit with purpose, ensuring that economic growth is inclusive, sustainable, and driven by local solutions. In Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, and across most parts of West Africa, we are witnessing women-led social enterprises that are revolutionizing industries. In agriculture, for instance, women-led agri-tech startups are increasing productivity and ensuring food security. In the financial inclusion space, we have digital finance platforms that are breaking traditional barriers to banking for women in rural communities. In the space of education, we have social businesses that are using technology to provide low-cost, high-impact solutions in healthcare and education, which is very beneficial to women. But for all these businesses to thrive and scale, we need more than just passion and innovation. We need a very supportive ecosystem, and that is what we're calling for, a very supportive, inclusive ecosystem. But how do we break these barriers? The three main pillars of women economic empowerment are as follows. To unleash the full potential of social entrepreneurship, we must address three critical areas. One, access to finance and closing the gender funding gap. The financing gap for women entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa, as I indicated earlier, it's estimated at $42 billion. Despite the strong repayment records of women only experience a small fraction of investment capital compared to their male counterparts. In Ghana, according to the Global Findex database 2021, 63% of women in Ghana have formal financial accounts, signifying progress in increasing women's access to financial institutions. However, the gender gap in Ghana has grown significantly in the past 5 years, from 8 to 11%. We must therefore rethink investment models, from impact investing to blended financing and women-focused venture funds. Development partners, financial institutions, and the private sector must work together to create financing mechanisms that recognize the unique realities of women-led businesses. And I think this is very, very key, where we recognize the unique realities of women-led businesses. 2, enabling policies, building an inclusive business environment. For us, we argue that government has the responsibility to create policies that remove legal and structural barriers for women entrepreneurs. Gender-responsive trade policies under the AFCFTA can ensure that women-owned businesses benefit from regional integration. Regulatory reforms can make it easier for women to register businesses, access credit, and scale their ventures. Public procurement policies that prioritize women or women-led businesses, increasing their market opportunities, both internally and externally. At UNDP, through our partnerships, we're committed to working with government, development partners, policymakers, and private sector players to advance these very critical reforms. The third one is focusing on skills, network, and digital transformation. Beyond finance and policy, we need capacity building, giving women entrepreneurs the skills, tools, and networks to succeed. Digital transformation is a key equalizer. Women entrepreneurs need digital literacy, e-commerce access, and tech-driven solutions to scale their business, a key area which UNDP is currently programming. Mentorship and peer networks must be expanded, allowing women to connect with role models, investors, and partners who can accelerate their growth. For us, moving forward from ideas to impact, we feel that systemic change does not happen in isolation. It requires very bold solutions from government, from private sector leaders, civil society, and also development partners. To policymakers, we argue that it's really essential to prioritize gender-responsive policies that remove the barriers to entry for women entrepreneurs. For the investors and financial institutions, we argue that there's a need to shift from risk-based to opportunity-based financing. Women-led enterprises are not a risk, which we've tried to paint. They are an untapped economic force, which we need to go for. Again, to corporate leaders, we argue there's a need to strengthen inclusive supply chains and invest in women-led enterprises as part of the sustainability strategies. To social entrepreneurs, we encourage you to keep challenging the status quo, innovating, and proving that business can be a force for good. In conclusion, I would say that UNDP remains very committed to working alongside all of you to build an economy that works for women, because when women rise, the nations rise. Let's act. We're not just talking, we need to act together. The future of Ghana and Africa's economy depends on women standing up and being led as entrepreneurs. Thank you.
I think the clap is weak. It's a very weak clap, considering the pointers and the three things that Mr. Edward left with us. The reason I'm not able to pronounce his surname is that I don't want to make any attempt. So bear with me. I'll try. Amprachum. I'm a Ghanaian, but sometimes I don't. Yeah, anyway, we'll skip that. Okay, so the three key things that he left with, I think is something that we should circle back, let it marinate, continue to marinate on it. And I think it's also a very critical moment for me to acknowledge the presence of one of our very own key ecosystem leaders from the impact investing side, the presence of Amalate, the CEO for Impact Investing Ghana. Give us a wave. Because of the first point on access to finance, I think their work is so instrumental at this sort of intersection where we tend to de-risk finance and also see women businesses as opportunities and not risky ventures. And of course, patient capital and all those nice things that Amalate has been advocating for years now, something that we would take for it. So, Mr. Amprachum, we hear you and we'll take on that particular one. And of course, reach for change on a social entrepreneurship perspective with our drive to make sure that we build businesses that do well and do good at the same time. That is all we say when we talk about social entrepreneurship. And this has been something that from an ecosystem building perspective, we are so keen on, and that's why we assemble all of you here to Jojo to think about these issues and then drive certain actions together. So we'll be knocking on the doors of UNDP pretty soon. I think it's also very important for me to acknowledge the presence of the Canadian Development Corporation, Banabe. His Excellency Banabe joining us. So thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. There are a few people that I'll be acknowledging as we roll. At this moment, we've heard from our very own Sophia Brithos. We've also heard from Her Excellency Annika. We've heard from the UNDP, which is a UN agency, letting us understand and appreciate the complexities of the issues that we are confronted with and their innovative approaches to tackling them. I think it's about time that we hear from the European Union. And so help me welcome our very own and our good friend. She's been here before during the first edition of Partnering for Change in Ghana. She's also here with us with a word from the EU. So help me welcome Zata Pitura, the program officer with the European Union delegation to Ghana.
Thank you very much, Andrews. When you told me it's a headshot, I took it literally. And now I see those nice photos, and mine is like ID photo. Okay. I will know what to do next time. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I represent the European Union here, and I will stand on existing protocols. I also greet you warmly by our EU ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Richard Razali. Okay, I have to read from the phone as well because printer was not working. So let's see how I manage. So let's start. And it closed. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, here we go. Doing business in Ghana is not always easy, especially if you are a woman. As you know, in Ghana, we have a young society. About 57% of Ghanaians are under 25, and 50.7% of them are women. In addition, it's calculated that each year about 400,000 young people enter the job market as job seekers. The significant population of young and female job seekers provides a potential workforce, is a driver of innovation and a market for new ventures. Despite this, and that there exist already some gender-focused policies, and let me expand a little, also youth-focused, because a lot of us are young here, most of us, I see. But everybody should feel young, right? So, despite that those policies exist, gender policies, youth policies in Ghana, Sorry, I lost. The impact remains limited due to systemic barriers and practical challenges in accessing these benefits. Systemic barriers, lack of political support, policy gaps mean that women and youth face high unemployment, restricted access to capital, and persistent economic inequality. Gender policies, as I said, they exist, but actual benefits remain out of reach. We are therefore pleased that against this backdrop at the EU, we have this year started a new collaboration with the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, and we have started to undertake a stakeholder engagement initiative to advance gender and youth inclusive business regulatory policies for Ghana. Policies that foster a business environment enabling equitable access and economic opportunities for young and women entrepreneurs. This will be done through a specialized technical assistance provided by the EU to the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs. And through the structured approach, this shall enhance the business regulatory landscape for young and women entrepreneurs. I'm also pleased to announce that at this point in time, we are finalizing the contracting of a new program together with Dutch and French, as well as UN, UNCDF partners who will implement our new program for green, digital, and inclusive private sector development. The program will work on three main components, including innovative access to finance, improving the legislative and regulatory environment for green digital SMEs, and improving digital and green skills of entrepreneurs. We will make sure that women and young people are the major stakeholder group that will benefit from our initiatives, which is always at the forefront of EU cooperation. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Wow. Thank you so much. I just had to problem solve real quick. But thank you so much, Margosata Pitura. One of the things that we know that we are going to be continuing the conversation regarding policy direction and also opportunities, equitable systems for women to thrive. So we will definitely picking up those conversations. A few things that were recapped also from the UNDP head of governance speech. I think that was a third angle regarding enabling policy, and then the second thing, enabling policy, and then also the third one being skills, network, and digital transformation. Margot, as we call her, has just given us a certain sort of a direction, a clear-cut direction that we should take as development partners and also actors within the ecosystem. So let's give it up for her again, please. Another round of applause. Thank you. At this juncture, I'm going to be entering into the elements of social entrepreneurship. And in that element, we are going to be projecting the work of some of our amazing social entrepreneurs. So all of you should put on your innovative hats and your problem-solving gears. I know you don't have any gears here, so don't bother. But be in that spirit where we get to listen to the stories that have moved from, I think, decades now, and they're tangible, so you can see the results on the ground. And we have the first change, one of the foremost change leaders of Reach for Change program in Ghana, I think, right? And she's going to be talking to us about her work, and then let us understand what it means to actually invest in women. I'm very much privileged and humbled to welcome on stage for our Change Talks, the founder, the CEO of Sonko Academy, Regina Honu. She's going to talk to us about her journey so far.
Hello, everybody. So We're going to have an interesting conversation. I normally like to move, but I have to stay here. Okay. I should take the mic, eh? Okay. So we're going to have an interesting conversation, which is in 5 minutes, so I'm mindful of time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my change story. Okay, perfect. So my name is Regina Hunu, and I'm the CEO of Stronko Academy, which is a coding and human-centered design academy with a focus on bridging the gender gap. Now, this is a little bit about my profile, but one thing that you must know about me is I have an almost 9-year-old daughter, and one of my things I love to do is play with her. And that helps me de-stress because running a social enterprise is quite a challenge. So I'm going to walk you through my journey. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I got started into technology from playing Pac-Man. I fell in love with it and I wanted to change it. But from the time that I was interested in coding, there was no access to computers like it is now. And it was only when I went to university that I got the opportunity to do anything tech related. I went to Ashesi University. I graduated in computer science. There were 3 ladies in the class. I almost gave up, but I continued. I worked in 2 international banks as the only female in the IT department. So I went through discrimination, sexism, stereotyping, everything under the sun. And then I interviewed at Microsoft. And when I went to interview at Microsoft, at the time, every software developer's dream was to work at Microsoft. But I was always concerned about this phenomenon called the brain drain. What happens if the best and the brightest leave? And I was like, I should come back and walk the talk, right? So I came back and then I started Tech Needs Girls, which was my very first initiative focused at, changing the space, which later went to Stronko Academy. Okay, I have 2 more minutes left. This is fast. Okay, so now we're going to go faster. The clicker is not helping me. Okay, so now all the previous presentations talks about the why. I'm not going to go over it. These are all the gaps in the space. Can somebody just, I don't know if it's my nail or the clicker is not moving fast. Okay, perfect. These are some of the gaps. So percentage of women technology is very low, small fraction of women in leadership. So I'm going over all of that. Oh, okay, I'll skip that. Okay. Can I just do this and then you just move it? Perfect. Okay. So Reach for Change was the very first organization that invested in me. And it holds a very special space in my heart because without that initial investment, I don't think I'll be standing here today. Next slide. We started off working with girls in different communities, children that are differently abled. Next slide. Introducing coding into public schools. Next slide. Started running trainings for women in communities. And then the big question came in 2017. What happens when young women or the girls that we are training reach 18 to 35? So we decided to focus on young women. So we started running programs for young women within that demographic. We then started getting other women from other African countries coming to Ghana to study at the academy. So we had women from Liberia come. And then we started scaling our program, expanding through the region. So now we run our programs through all the regions in partnership with hubs. Our alumni work in different spaces. They work in multinationals, private sector, government agencies, and obviously start their own entrepreneurial ventures. We've also been commissioned to train women in the military. And I wanted to showcase something that goes beyond the numbers. So at Stronko, we are focused on more than just the number. We've trained thousands of women, but what does an alumni look like? And she is tech savvy. She earns up to 10,000. She volunteers her time. She's a leader and a mentor. So these are some of the success stories and that we want to use as a blueprint to replicate. We've also started giving out laptops to some of our women in the program. And we are partnering with companies to accelerate Wi-Fi. So we take this big box to communities where we can now, that didn't have Wi-Fi before. And then definitely storytelling through a book to the younger generation. Okay, challenges, my last slide. I'm staying within the time. My challenge is the challenge that is the theme of International Women's Day, accelerating action. I am stopped by ecosystem that makes it difficult. I am stopped by religious and societal practices. I am stopped by wanting to go very fast, but understanding that infrastructure is a challenge, the cost of data is a challenge, access to devices is a challenge, and then the biggest one is mindset, because we have to paint a picture to the women of where they are going to when they are in communities where the women that they see are in spaces that don't use digital. And so for me, I want to do more, but I need more partnerships, and we need to work on the ecosystem. And the most important thing, more enabling policies, so that I can grow as fast as I want to go and accelerate action without any hindrances. Oh, sorry, the slide just went. That was my daughter when she was I always have a feature of her. So now she's a guru in tech, right? So you can always start early. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Regina Honu. I think we should do it once again. We can do it better. And I just, thank you. I just love how she just carried with the whole thing, make it so real. Thank you so much, Regina. She's a social entrepreneur. I told you, being your social entrepreneur spirit, they come here and they want to just improvise and go with the flow. That is what it takes to solve and build enterprise and social ventures as she currently has. You get to just do what you have to do. Awesome. So with that said, we're going to do something interesting at this point. I would be walking to you, some of you, to take quick reactions. Quick reactions. It is partnering for change. We've heard a lot of speeches, a lot of talk, a lot of amazing insight, not just a talk, but there are actionable steps that we can take. I'm curious to know what is bubbling in your thoughts, what you may be thinking and pondering about. But before I walk to you, I want to acknowledge the presence, he walked out. The presence of the head of program for UNIDO, UNIDO Ghana, Mr. Yeboah Joseph. He was sitting right here, and he's also a networking and very much passionate about the needs of women. And so me seeing him in the room, I was so excited. We sent money when he's here. He has some exciting projects also under his sleeves that we need to hack into. So with that said, I also want to acknowledge the presence of the sector lead for SNV by the name Mr. Ruben Otu, sector lead for agri-foods, SNV. Thank you so much for joining us here. We have a number of amazing people also in the room that will be acknowledging as time goes. Oh, I just saw the Ghana Sweden Chamber of Commerce, Mr. and Madam Pearl, and then Mr. Vanderpoy. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Awesome. Good to have you with us. Okay, with acknowledgements done, let me come to you and then we do some quick reaction. The next thing that we are going to do now is a panel discussion. And I told you earlier that the panel discussion is mainly conversations that has transpired. We are going to just hone deeper into the things that has been communicated to us by our dignitaries and then by our leaders. So the guys will be doing the setup. That's not the main reason why I'm coming to you. They'll be doing the setup, but I want to really get your thoughts. So I'll be walking to some people to get their reflection. Please introduce yourself. I'm doing this in like 5 minutes, right? Just to get your thoughts. So it's a biased thing. I'm not doing simple random thing. I'm just picking anybody that I feel led to pick. So I'll go to this gentleman and then hear his quick reflection.
Thanks, Andrews. Gilles Metepe is my name. I head innovation and French communications at a global PR agency based out of Dubai called GMB Consultants. Always happy to come to Partnering for Change. We've seen the work that Reach for Change is doing, and we are always ready to support and collaborate with actors in the university ecosystem. We've done some work with Soronko before. Definitely we'll continue doing that for the sake of the growth of our ecosystem. I think one of the things that Regina touched on, which is the mentality. I'm also an assembly member representing a rural area in the Volta region. And I can tell you, mentality is everything. You have no idea how locked up here is in some areas. People don't believe they have a chance. They don't believe they even can get on the starting line. It's like Accra and whatever it is that is happening, what they see on their phones. Now we have phones, so they can at least see what is happening. It's like an entire world altogether. And those are even the boys. So imagine the girls. So I think we need to start thinking of ways to help our young girls change their mentality. Recently, I was having a conversation with a friend about the kind of books we used to read when we were children in primary school, and the kind of books students are reading now. Our vocabulary was fed. We are a bit more eloquent than this generation. If you have a conversation with someone who was in school in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, early 2000s, maybe they are even more vocal. This generation just want to type shorthands. We need to change that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gilles. So you heard it, mindset, mentality. We need to change that. And of course, the women have to believe in themselves, just like Regina. I'm trying to find someone. Okay, let me go to quick reflection. He said, please. Okay, let me go to Mr. Otu.
All right, thank you very much, Andrews. Well, I wasn't prepared for this. Since I've been put on the spot, let me say something. Well, again, dwelling on, is she Regina? Yeah, her presentation. I was just thinking how she managed to think ahead about projecting the training from childhood. She looks at how to make sure that in the middle age, women are also taken care of. Most of us are doing this within a very short span project lifespans. And I just feel platforms like this give us the opportunity to connect and make sure that we sustain a platform or an ecosystem that helps to strengthen with a long-term view the projects or strategies that we are putting in place. We are talking about behavioral change, we are talking about mindset, we are talking about enabling environment. All these things take time beyond 2-3 year projects. So a programmatic approach that is supported by particularly various organizations can really help us to sustain these efforts until we see that systems transformation that we are all looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Otu. Long-term systematic approach. I see here one of our legends. Our change leaders are in the room, and I'm moved to listen to her. I'm moved. So there's nothing I can do about it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I thought I was just hiding behind here. Yeah, my name is Cecilia Fiaka of NECA Youth Foundation. And I think just after Regina's group, we came in to Reach for Change. So we were the second cohort. And I'm so honored to be here. Yeah, I listened to everything that everybody said. And I said to myself, this is not being seen or felt by Cecilia or NECA Youth Foundation about women. I'm not going to say so much, but I want to pick something from Regina when she talked about the issues women go through. And the biggest thing for us as well, for having been in this space for 13 years now, is mindset. The mindset of women. willingness to break out from the status quo. It's really what is bringing us down. We have so much potential in us, and we just need a little prop up for us to be able to rise up from that. But many a times you see opportunities in our space, and we don't want to tap into it. I want to cite another example. We are having a program right now with Coral. Let me mention them. And it's for women to be in a space of painting. They are giving this whole platform to train women. Enrollment has gone in, and women feel it is not their field. It's an issue. But I'm very grateful for an opportunity like this to meet all stakeholders here to listen to us. We need to be seen and be
Fiaka. And the mindset thing, whilst we're talking, I kept pondering that, okay, where does this stem from? Where does it come from? Is it culturally, is it a cultural phenomenon? Is it something that has just been ingrained that you need to do something extra to bring women out of their comfort zone or whatever situation of place that they fix themselves? It's a certain limiting thing, but I'm also wondering whether it's also opportunities and platforms that hasn't been created due to a certain, yes, it's yet another cultural thing or religious. I think Regina mentioned it. And most of our speakers, starting from Sophia, more or less like calling us, it's a clarion call for us to ask ourselves some big questions. That are we really driving the change that we want to see in our world as partners, you know, from a place of thinking first about the need of the woman or the need of social entrepreneurs, if I should put everybody in that sort of bracket, because we have women showing that potential more. And as partners, so how can we then say that we need to just move beyond what we do, our programs and all those things, and go into deep problem solving, programmatic framing, just to change everything altogether, right? I'm thinking whilst talking because there's so many things that has been shared, and I think I will pause on my thoughts and invite the panel to really unpack some of the things that has been shared. And it's an amazing panel. I believe that my team is ready. My team is ready with their setup. So the theme of the panel is going to be building equitable systems that foster inclusion, fairness, and opportunities for all. So the theme in itself sort of captures every sentiment and thought that has been, you know, discussed so far. And this panel is a rich panel. So I'm going to be inviting the moderator of the panel. He's smiling, my goodness. All right, so I'm going to invite the moderator of the panel, who is going to sit right here and then bring his panelist also to join him. So he's an advisor, currently playing an advisor. Until recently, he was our country manager in Ghana. And now he's playing an advisor on projects in some of our markets. Help me welcome Solomon Chum, who is going to be moderating the next panel and letting us appreciate what we are dealing with in this time. Yes. Okay, so let me proceed to call on the rest. What an opportunity it is. So the next panelist, we have in our midst Dr. Christian Jean. He's the head of support to private and financial sector with the GIZ. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. And then our very own, I mean, there are two of our very own. Everybody is our very own, though. So help me welcome my boss, Sophia Brethels, CEO of Reach for Change, to join the panel. And then this man is an excited, very energetic man. We're together this morning, and he was just telling me everything. I was like, oh my goodness, you are just the perfect person to have on this panel. And he's a partner with Scania West Africa. Help me welcome the Services and Training Manager of Scania West Africa, Harun. I can't pronounce his surname, so I won't make an attempt. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. And then, I was going to say we have our very own again, but everybody's our very own. Until recently, she wears so many hats. So let me put this hat on her. She's currently the CEO of the Ghana Venture Capital Association. Help me welcome Ama Jampo. She wears so many hats, so I won't even go further. Thank you so much for joining us, Ama. Okay, our mics are ready. Our panel are ready, I believe. And then Solomon is ready. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again. I am particularly excited because I have realized that in the midst of all the challenges that have been discussed, we're also seeing some windows of opportunities to address some of the challenges. One of the things that shocked me last week was an information I chanced on in a meeting with a partner in Kigali, where we were told that consistently from the year 2000 to 2022, though we've been seeing women as agents of growth and transformation in Africa, but their contribution to GDP has declined, consider 18% to 11%. But if we are to support and accelerate women, then we're going to see an incremental contribution of about $280 billion to GDP by 2030. So we don't have any choice but to begin to work now. And it is in that same spirit that this afternoon we want to address that critical question of how sorry, I think Andy left one of my panelists. Regina, please join us. Let's clap for her. This is a sacrilegious crime. Our sincere apologies.
No worries.
All right. So yes, in this spirit, we want to have the discussion and address the critical question that, given these significant economic and systemic challenges that we've talked about facing women, what forms of collaborations and innovation will be necessary to address these problems and create an equitable system for women. So with that said, I would want to ask Sophia to tee us off in this conversation. I would give all of you an opportunity to quickly introduce yourself and at least share in a minute or two how you connect with the topic that we're discussing. And then after that, you segue into the question. All right, so Sophia, I'm going to ask you a question, but you start with your introduction and then go on to answer. I know that Reach for Change has done a lot when it comes to supporting women, and that's also in our very core as an organization, what it is that we do. If you could explain to us what an equitable economic system looks like and why it is essential for sustainable development. Obviously focusing on the work that we've done in supporting women.
Thanks, Solomon. I'm going to start by going off script a little bit. You're going to hate me now. It was such a wide and strong question, but I've just been reflecting on these morning conversations. And as you know, Reach for Change supports local grassroots social entrepreneurs with capacity development, access to network, access to finance. So actually exactly what we've been talking about today is needed, right, for this kind of just transition where we include women at the table. I'm just feeling a little bit of frustration, and maybe the people in the room share this frustration with me, because I think we know the recipe, right? We're talking about everybody is very, very agreed upon what challenges we see. And we also have quite a great recipe of what we need to do. I mean, I think the UNDP representative said it extremely well. You know, we need more and better capital and more flexible capital. You know, we need to change mindset. We need to bridge this digital gap. We know what we need to do. So my frustration stems a little bit in why are we not doing enough? And I think that we also need to be a little bit careful putting the onus on the woman all the time, that the woman is not prepared, the woman is not ready, woman does not have the scaling mindset, because actually that's not correct. I mean, we have brilliant examples in the room, and thank you, Regina, for being one of our shining stars to exemplify this. It all is these systemic barriers that I just wonder, how are we going to address? How are we going to address the project cycle funding, which doesn't give us any time to change mindset, the kinds of capital that we don't have? How are we going to address these issues when investors ask female entrepreneurs questions about risk, and how they ask male entrepreneurs questions around opportunity? How are we going to get to the drill down and actually get to these answers? So I'm sorry, Solma, I don't have an eloquent answer. I'm now speaking out of my frustration. What if we know what we need to do, why are we not doing more of it? And why are the systems of funding around us not funding in a patient way and allowing us to collaborate, pilot, test, and then scale up what works? That's a little bit of a question I have in mind, which I would love to pass on to my fellow panelists here.
Thank you so much. We didn't mean to frustrate you, except that that's a reality. But thank you for sharing. I would move to Amma. You play in the impact investing space. Some of the challenges that has been talked about this afternoon, which is very clear and obvious, has to do with the limited access to finance. We're seeing increasingly how it's also becoming difficult for women to even take leadership roles where they're supposed to. Access to land, access to all the basic things that make us thrive as humans is something that is being denied as an opportunity to women. But more on the capital side of things, I just want to understand how your understanding of the systemic barriers, like limited access to credit, land, and leadership roles, and how this has impacted the economic participation of women.
Try to turn this thing up. Right. So I think we need to make space for the frustration, because I think we're all frustrated, and acknowledging that partnership doesn't always work, right? I want to actually call out Cecilia. Hi. She's like, what have I done? But when funders come in with models that don't fit a beneficiary or a recipient, the consequences are really devastating. And I'm calling out Cecilia because we had a project like that go spectacularly wrong, putting Cecilia at such a precarious situation. I personally felt terrible about it because I was on the money side, and it just failed spectacularly. But we know that systems change takes time. We know that the funding models don't always work. We know there are funding pockets that can be more patient and more flexible. And we have seen some demonstrations of how funders can partake in this long journey with social enterprises and entrepreneurs. So the effects are devastating when it goes wrong. I mean, we know that some women pay 40% interest rates just because they're women in a rural area. That's not sustainable for anybody, 40% interest rates, much less 20, 25% in the commercial banking sector. Most of the decision makers on the credit side are male. And so again, there are cases like Aseli have a great scheme where they really worked with commercial banks, mainly in East Africa, to just educate the credit officers on how to assess the risk of lending to a woman in agriculture, for example, drastically reducing the interest rates that they were being passed on to the women and increasing the number of women actually coming to apply for loans. So there are instances and stories that we can cling to as, in terms of hope and models that can work. I'd like to also point out another, foundation that's doing really great work, Africa MasterCard Africa Growth Fund, MasterCard Africa, Foundation's Africa Growth Fund. They're really demonstrating how, again, they're intentionally seeking out women fund managers, helping them to set up and establish their funds. And they go on to obviously lend long-term credit, equity and support to more women in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, right? So I think we need to demonstrate and be more clear about who plays what role in the money pot, whether it's credit or equity. We do need more women in the pipeline, and we need to be intentional about supporting them through that. If it's a cooperative in a rural area, they're not necessarily going to be the ones to go for equity or venture capital, right? It's just a mismatch. But we do need to understand the different pockets of money and apply ourselves in a way that we can collaborate and partner in ways that can give us that level of patient capital and long-term support to grow and navigate through markets. And I think that's a huge missing piece of the puzzle that I think some funders in this room can maybe delve into and negotiate and collaborate on.
Right. Thank you. I saw Christian nodding all throughout when you were speaking. I'm going to come to you in a few minutes. I'll move to Harun before I come to you, Christian. So it's interesting what it is that Scania is also doing, working in complex and emerging sectors. We know that for the sustainability of businesses within this space, we understand that most of these firms in their approach to social obligation tends to focus on the sustainable development goals, and this is something that Scania is also quite passionate about. Can you share with us your approach as an organization to accelerating gender equality within these complex and emerging markets such as mining, transportation, etc.?
Scania, hello. Scania, we're a big multinational. We are part of VW Group. Scania, a long time ago, we signed for the SDGs as well. So we have a social obligation. And the way we work with this is to find partnerships like we've done with GIZ many years ago here in Ghana, like we've done the last 4 years in Ivory Coast. The things that we started here have been copied in many other places, the other side of the ocean, the other side of the world. And that's our driving factor. And luckily enough, it actually generates more business for us because I will elaborate more on it afterwards, but we had a company coming to us, say, look, we want to buy Scanias if you help us to find drivers, female drivers, which was a big success. So it's part of our social engagement, and we have to do this. We're a company, we're not a social or a charity organization, far from it. We have a business drive, of course, but I'm proud to say that Scania is driving this from social obligation as well, social responsibility.
That's interesting. So you know the stakeholders you are dealing with, you know the challenges that we face, and so you adopt that approach to address these challenges. That's interesting. I am curious to know if you can put some figures to it in terms of number of women you've managed to push into some of these complex sectors.
I don't want to jump too much on or to give too much away from the story I'm going to tell afterwards. But here in Ghana, over the 4 years, we trained 150 women. And, much better than me, if you change the life of one person here, especially a woman, if I speak about my family, I have 2 daughters and a wife, and that's where it stops. I still have my parents and my sister, but I mean, when I speak about my family, that's my 2 daughters and my wife. Here, if you talk about your family, you talk about 50 people. So if you change, no, but that's a reality, At least that's my experience, unless I'm wrong. But I mean, if you're able to change the life of one person,
right,
you have an effect on 50, multiplied by 150. So I'm really motivated to continue and to find new opportunities for this and I'm very proud that Scania continues to do this and supports this because yes, it's business, but the social impact,
thank you.
I'm very proud of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And obviously, it's having that multiplier effect.
Yes.
That's interesting to know. Regina, let's speak your language about, let's talk technology. How do we leverage on this to bridge that gap of access, for women? The challenges are many, but is there a way that you feel that technology has been a game changer in enabling women to scale some of these barriers that we've talked about?
Definitely, yes. You'll find that a lot of the female entrepreneurs are using technology tools in different ways, from starting a business on WhatsApp Business, to using mobile money to receive their money, to even building websites, right? So technology is allowing them to connect to global markets. We have partners that work with women remotely. So a partner will hire like 113 women and will pay them in euros. And a woman sitting in Tamale with a laptop is doing micro AI tasks and getting 50 euros a month, right? So technology is breaking down those barriers, where before you'd have to look for talent where you are. Now you can get talent anywhere, so far as they are skilled. Now, like Sophia said, it's really disheartening sometimes, right? Especially for International Women's Day, because we have these conversations every year. And I believe that technology we can push further, right? We can do more. It should be able to give access to more women, not only able-bodied women, but also disabled women in very remote rural areas, women, make sure they are not being left behind. But definitely we need to have more conversations about how do we accelerate that. Like, we passed 50,000 women that we've trained in January, but it's not enough, right? We have to be able to do more. And so we should have bigger conversations. Like, how do we come together? I think now we have to talk more collaboration, right? And talk, how do we enable ecosystems so that we can use the same technology to amplify access and then amplify action?
Thank you. I want to believe there are some burning questions that will be coming from the audience. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do so in a few minutes. I would want to hear from Christian first, and then we'll come to you for a couple of minutes, and after that we come back to the panel. But just to have a sense of time, to know how much time I allocate to you, may I see by hand how many of you have questions at the moment that you really want to ask? Okay, so 1, 2, right, 3, quite a bit. Okay, so I'll be coming to you shortly. Christian, we've had a lot of barriers, but we also agree, or we all agree, that with a collaborative approach, a lot of these barriers can also be addressed or significantly minimized in terms of its impact on women. I know that GIZ does a lot of work both in the public and private space, working with governments, working with other private entities to address some of these social challenges. Can you share with us the role that a public-private partnership can play in creating an inclusive system for women? And maybe also lump together my second question for you, if you have any success stories of such collaborative approaches and how it's addressed such problems, either in Ghana or other parts of Africa where you've worked.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe also first when you started with a much more pessimistic outlook, I thought it resonates somehow. Because at the beginning, when I was thinking about it, or when I was asked to come, I realized that it was a bit more than 30 years ago in my studies when we were talking about women in development and learning about all the different approaches. And then when I joined later GTZ, how the approach was then introduced. And I think also I wanted to just mention a little bit 2 words to that part, because I think it's important when you talk about systemic approaches. There are some attempts, and I think that also, just to mention that, I think a lot of development agencies or development partners follow the same track, where decades ago already we had a kind of gender tracker, so to say, and all the programs we are doing. So we had to make sure to show exactly what we are doing when it comes to women empowerment. And that is one way of having a systemic approach. When I heard the Swedish ambassador, I think also the Swedish Minister for Development Cooperation also signed a paper on feminist development policy, what also the German minister came up with a few years ago. It shows there are a lot of attempts to tackle the topic also on a more global and systemic issue or level. But yet at the end it boils down, of course, yes, what can we do really on the ground when we are talking about private sector. Scania is one example who has been mentioned, and I mean, GIZ does a lot of programs within or with public-private partnership, but not only with public-private partnership. As I just mentioned, I mean, we have to integrate them actually in all our activities. And so there are a number of examples what we are doing. For example, here in Ghana, we just at the moment, we are also conducting a study on getting more information, what are the challenges, hindrances of women in the financial system, where we're not only looking at access to finance, what are hindrances there, also into the financial institutions within the setup of the institution itself. How do they tackle that? And how can that then later on with an action plan be addressed, so that it's not just a study, but that there really some action comes out of it. The same thing a couple of years ago, or just 2 years ago, a program partially also implemented by GIZ and by colleagues from France and Netherlands, ICR facility, supported the Development Bank of Ghana with a kind of gender accelerator program, where they also look what can actually DBG, what kind of approach can they have so that the money they are on lending, make sure it is also more centered to women. And then we come to, that's also still a topic, to gender lens investing. I mean, that is one way of how to do it. And so these are just some examples what I wanted to share, or maybe one more, because I don't know how much time I have left afterwards. You're quite strict in times, but which offers also a lot of opportunity for others actually to collaborate, because I think that is also one of the main topics here on seeing on how can we really bring all the different actors that are here now, a lot of different actors, working all in different programs. I mean, the colleague from UNDP listed all the challenges and partially solutions already that are there, and I think a lot of people would subscribe to that and say, yes, that's the right thing to do. And yet it is quite fragmented in the approach what we are doing here. So it needs much more collaboration among donors, but also we need a strong government on that, who also supports that kind of collaboration. And a private sector that is also willing to do so, but there are also our experiences, maybe I can say that a bit later, is quite positive. And I wanted to end it in a positive note also, because we're also pessimistic. We should also not forget that we have also very good examples even in Africa, where we have Rwanda has the highest percentage of women in parliament worldwide. And we had a president in Ethiopia for a female president of Ethiopia. In Germany, we had a female chancellor. So there are signs things are moving. That is what I wanted to say. At the same time, we all know they don't move fast enough, and there's still a long way to go. But there's also hope. They're moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's do it better. I need to see evidence of the coffee you drank. Can we do that again? Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move to the audience now. I have some round of questions to come back to you with, but just want to hear from the audience what your questions are. So we'll take 3 questions, and please feel free to let us know who you want to address that question. If you want any of them to take it as well, that's fine. So the microphones can be taken round.
Thank you. So I will not direct this one to anyone in particular. So whomever feels he wants to kind of like share his thoughts on it can go ahead and do that. We are talking about partnership. And for us in Africa, we know how powerful religious bodies are. People listen a lot to either they are priests or they are pastors or they are imams. How do we bring religious bodies on board? Because most of the times we talk about what government can do, what civil society can do, forgetting that these people actually hold real influence on how, especially in the rural areas, right? So how do we get other institutions, well-organized institutions for that matter, on board? How do we bring priests on board? How do we bring pastors, imams, to also become partners for change and drive women empowerment wherever they are? How do we do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take the second question.
Okay. So my question is largely going to, I think, the GVV and Scania. My name is Charles Jokoto, and I work in a bank. Okay, and most often, if you go for this kind of engagement, you would see banks are non-existent. But today, we're happy to be here at First National Bank, and I'm happy for what Reach for Change has put together. And if you mention banks to a typical woman in business, is more about, okay, it's expensive, I don't want to go to banks. And from our conversations, we mentioned about access to finance, cost of capital, and all that. So what role specifically do we expect from banks moving forward? We have 23 banks in the country so far. By the end of some months to come, we would have 2 more additionals, even more than the number of venture capitals we have in the country. So where should we, what collaborations, what are the things you're expecting from the banks? We can pick it up and see how the conversations should go. Yeah, thanks.
Final question.
All right. So I'm George with Agrico Hub. So I think, first of all, I want to acknowledge Regina for her work. Through her work, I think we have about 4 of our employees coming through her programs. Yeah, and I think 3 of them are single parents, young single parents, and kudos to you. So my question has to do with how do we, first of all, help women to easily formalize their businesses? Because you could see that most of the informal businesses are owned by women, and financial institutions, for instance, are not interested in actually dealing with these informal businesses. So how do we make it very easy for them to formalize their businesses? We run a credit union for startups, and it's interesting how they are very responsive when it comes to giving them credit and they paying back the credit. But the issue has to do with the very informal nature of how they do their businesses. How do we make it easy for them to formalize their businesses so that we can get more women accessing credit, more women coming into the formal stream of doing business? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, George. So I'll come back to the panel. Who wants to take the first question?
I think I'll take a couple of questions and bulk them into one.
Okay.
The first thing is Giles's question about churches and faith-based. There's a whole discipline around faith-based investing and faith-based finance. I think we're a little bit early stage in Ghana. We have talked about this at Impact Invest in Ghana as well. It's just not something we've developed or had the resources to actually develop as a pillar. But I do agree that it's a huge opportunity for the country to figure out how we conduct our faith-based investing opportunity, right? So thanks for the reminder. I don't have any answers right now, but I think it's definitely something we can partner on and maybe formalize a bit more through collaboration. The other one was around the banking system. I don't have any answers for the banking system because the banks borrow money and then they lend on to the final consumer, right? So there are some structural barriers there which are way above my pay grade and my expertise. But I think if we could look at that somehow, I don't have the technical expertise to give you a direct answer to that. But again, I mean, I know there are programs available to enable the banks to have some wiggle room around reducing their rates and proactively seeking out women in business and supporting them. And in terms of rural development and real sort of informal, I think you talked about your cooperative, the gentleman here, your cooperative. I think we always want to try and formalize the informal sector. And I feel like it's just part of our DNA. So I don't know who is ever going to formalize the very DNA of our market and our society. I feel like there are huge opportunities through tech, and maybe Regina can speak to this a bit later, around how we can maybe help the informal sector to navigate markets, in a more beyond access to market. We talk about access to market all the time, but okay, fine, have access to market, but how do you navigate the market? How do we create platforms that can maybe aggregate some of the informal sector talent that we have out there in a way that is more efficient and able to navigate the market opportunities that we have to create jobs and all the other metrics that we're all interested in. That's me. Solomon?
Thank you. Any other thoughts on any of the questions? Yeah, Christian.
Yeah, maybe just to add on that, with the first question related to a religious leader, and I would also include their chieftaincy. I mean, there's a huge potential, which is not very often used. And I experienced that when we started our activities, because the program I'm heading is working in 5 regions and here in Ghana, and in each region we started a kind of regional network, and we always invited them. And 2 times I heard it from them straightforward, it's the first time we have been invited, thank you. And yes, they have a huge leverage and potential. So definitely I think they should be included all the time when we are working in the community, because that is where they are closest to. And they have an interest as well. And that brings me also to the other question in terms on what kind of support can we give for women, especially for women, in formalizing their business. I mean, that is also what we are trying to address with this kind of network, where we bring actually all players together in government service providers. So if it is FDA or wherever you have to register your business would be there. It will also be the private sector business development service provider and also financial service provider. And ideally, we would also like to have the donor-funded programs there, so that you have a kind of one-stop shop for the enterprises, that they get all the information, at least as one source where they know, if not directly at that place, but they know where to get it from. So that is a bit the idea what we have with this network. And interestingly, first the NDPC got interested in it, and now we were contacted by the local government with the new local economic development policy that have been concluded last year and is now valid for until 2029, I think, for the next 5 years. They see that also as an interesting tool to help them actually to implement their economic development policy. So with the new government, I'm also quite hopeful that there is a real interest in bringing different stakeholders together. It's not easy, but I think it is a very good way to go about, because that is also a more efficient use of resources.
That's interesting. Hopefully next year when we convene again, we'll probably be sharing some experiences in this regard. Fingers crossed. I have a burning question based on all the information that had been shared when we started, especially the issue of mindsets. Listening to Cecilia, listening to Regina, it's obvious that there's a problem. We seem to be addressing this mindset issue that focuses on obstacles rather than the end goal. And so this question is going to go to you, Sophia and Regina. I know I'm throwing this in, so sorry for putting you on the spot. But for us at Reach for Change, mentoring entrepreneurs, building their capacity, supporting them with coaching and all the business development services, how do you think that bit of mentoring and coaching and capacity building can help address some of these mindset problems? And for you, Regina, putting yourself in the shoes of an entrepreneur, having received coaching, capacity building, and mentoring, how has that helped shape that mindset that allows you to focus on an end goal rather than an obstacle? So maybe Sophia, you can that.
Two thoughts. And firstly, now I think I'll shift back into optimism. So thank you for indulging me and in my frustration. But I think where I see the potential is really in social entrepreneurship. And that is because we were talking about how mindset is it's culturally ingrained. It's extremely difficult to challenge. It takes a long time. The way we can tackle these structural issues that we have, these systemic barriers, through changing mindset is often through the people who live the problems themselves, those are the people who also have the best solutions.
Right.
And the people who are able to include everybody in the solution as well. And if we can get that inclusive kind of solution, that is much more sustainable in the long term. And that, I think, is kind of the silver bullet, how we will be able to like tackle mindset. And Regina is doing it every day with young people, and I think and you know, their mothers and their grandmothers and all of these things, and equally so the young men right around. So I think that social entrepreneurship, because of that, is such an intensely powerful tool. And that brings us to how are we able to scale these pockets of experience that we see that are really having an impact. And from what we see from Ethiopia to Senegal to Ghana, it's very similar, that if we can instill a sense of scaling mindset from the start, then it's much easier to coach the entrepreneur through these barriers. So if you dream big from the start, then your journey will hopefully follow that pathway that you envision. So that's a hopeful note, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Regina?
Yeah, definitely in the beginning, I had a few mentors, but I struggled to find a lot because I was in a space that was so heavily male dominated. And then I realized that I was making several mistakes that, you know, if I had a mentor, they would guide me out of it. And obviously I had a very small thinking because I felt, okay, this is as far as I can go. But meeting other global women, you know, women in other markets, not even just Ghana, including women from Ghana, and what they have been able to accomplish, the barriers that they've been able to break and keep going, really made a difference. So now I have a couple of mentors and people who guide me, and I have built a community. We always say that you need a sisterhood, like a tribe, right? Because sometimes you go through an experience and you think, am I the only one? Did I handle it badly? Could I have done something else? But you learn that, you know, the other women that have done it and will show you the way. So I would always advise, get a mentor, don't repeat. We're moving fast, so go faster than going through all the mistakes somebody has already done. So get somebody who can guide you so that you don't go through that same pothole and you just keep moving forward.
Very instructive. Thank you very much. Let's clap for our panelists. Unfortunately, we have little time left, so I can't take second round of questions, but I believe they'll be available for one-on-one questions during our second round of networking and cocktails. Before we get off stage, I just want to give all of you a minute each, maybe starting with you, Christian. Basically share thoughts on what key action or activity you think we should prioritize to address some of these challenges, something that will be a rallying call for all of us to look forward to. What should we prioritize to create an equitable system for our women?
Because you're quite strict with time, so I put down these 4 points. Well, first is, I think what has not yet been mentioned is actually support to the implementation of the affirmative action bill here in Ghana. I mean, that is something going also in the right direction, where everybody can see what the government is doing and how can we support that. The second point, what I think is also important, is having really gender disaggregated data collection, because that is the backbone then later on to actually argue and reasoning for those different envelopes that might be available for women support programs and women empowerment. And then, as it was also mentioned, having incentives or preferential treatment for companies that promote women economic empowerment, or where you have social enterprises We have inclusive businesses where we also developed an accreditation system, which is basically a social business. But one part of the accreditation is actually how much is the company intentionally actually really doing something for women empowerment in the company. And there's the last point what I wanted to make is we very often focus on promoting women-led business, which is good. But we should also not forget, because that is what a lot of actually companies, men-owned companies, told us, we do a lot of things for women in our company. Why are we excluded? So when we want to really promote women economic empowerment, we should also, look in those companies, even when they are male-led, but they'd also get some support. That's my 4 points.
Thank you. Food for thoughts. Sophia.
Yeah, I'd like to just revert back to the theme of partnership. And I think, Amma, what you just did now is extremely powerful in terms of sharing, this is what we did when we tried to partner and it didn't go well. And, sharing those kinds of learnings and stories so that others understand also don't have to go into the same pothole. Because partnership is difficult, and to build these kind of collaborations that, we see that there are willing partners, and Scania here is an example. I love that, but you need actors in the civil society. You need, government actors to help scale the initiatives up. And if we can talk more about what, honestly, this doesn't work well, this hasn't worked well, this hasn't served us, we can do better next time. So I think being that transparent around our learnings is extremely important.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Harun?
One thing I think is very important is the change in mindset. Something I learned from the 4 years that I lived here and worked here, and that we did the training with these women, is yes, it's difficult, but it's not rocket science. But changing the mind of someone, changing attitude, it takes years, and it needs to come from within the society. It's not, I'm not here to change society. I don't have that power, I don't have that skill, but the only thing that we can do as a company like Scania is create a platform, give people the opportunity to do something with it, and for them to drive the change. That's our part of it. We're not working with banks and all these kind of things. We have our own financing system a bit to finance all these opportunities. But, we're all the same. I worked all over the world with, I think, all different religions. We're all the same. And the difference between men and women, I don't, a woman can drive a truck. I made a study, I will talk about it later, but I made a study on comparing female drivers and male drivers. The outcome I will explain later. Or you can guess.
Interesting.
Yes, I've done. But I'll explain.
Thanks for sharing those thoughts, Amma.
So many pointers. But the mindset thing, I think we need to get better at partnering around long-term communications and telling our stories. Like in the impact investing space, the venture capital space, we have amazing people that are almost giving up because they're not being supported in the long term to do the right things through policy. So policy change, in terms of funding, policy change and advocacy and drafting bills, these are all barriers in our way, right? And then of course, community and sort of locally led economic development is a huge opportunity that I'm hoping will present itself for us to all crowd around and partner at a hyper-local level. I think that's really where the change can happen, but again, over time. So with that in mind, the resourcing and the funding and the partnerships need to be long-term and not programmatic in nature. So I think that would be the call for action to partner in the long term and resource those requirements in the long term for them to come to fruition.
Thank you. Regina?
It's almost as if Amma read my mind. For me, it's about amplifying local voices. I think we need to hear more from young people, and we need them to be more present and participate. And I think the last two things is to keep the momentum. Like Amma said, it's wave in, wave out, this and that, but we just have to keep going, right? And obviously the final thing, everybody learn a digital skill.
we're being asked to have a shift in mindset, a mindset that focuses on end goal and not obstacles, and also drive community-led economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear your bestest applause yet for the day. So that applause was for yourself. I want an applause for the panelists. I want to say a big thank you to Christian from GIZ, Sophia from Reach for Change, Harun from Scania, Amajampo from Ghana Venture Capital Association, and Regina from Shronko Academy. Thank you all very much for granting us the audience. Thank you.
That was a nice, fantastic podcast right there. Let's give it up for the panelists again, and of course the moderator. And then they left out one panel member who happens to be a foremost chain leader, or talking chambers, and then the sacrilegious crime will be appeased. Awesome. Thank you so much. So at this current juncture, I'm going to be doing a quick run through on our next segment of our conversation. We have a number of things that are left for us to tackle, for us to handle. You've heard a lot from the panel discussion, and we are going to deep dive into these discussions in the room. By room, I mean the breakout sessions. So there's a first breakout session that would happen in the area where the setup for coffee breaks happened. That's with GIZ, the Widu team. And at this moment, I want to acknowledge a few people that would be participating in that breakout session. It's a closed type of arrangement because of the conversation that we'll be having there. So the theme of that breakout session, or the topic for that breakout session, is collaborate for change, scaling impact through partnership. The intent of the GIZ Widu program is to solicit ideas and perspective from key implementers, first from the impact investing side of things, also from policy, and also from a certain ecosystem perspective of how the Widu program could self-manage, could self-run itself as an impactful venture. The Widu program in the last couple of years have been targeting a lot heavy on women businesses, female-led businesses, for harnessing potential from the green circularity space. And we, by we, I mean Reach for Change, has been fortunate to be a partner of the Widu program for quite some time now. And we look forward to also contribute to expanding business opportunities, particularly for women-led enterprises. And so that conversation is very, very important. We'll have in the room Ama Latte, we'll have also Ama Jampo, the two Amas. And then also, we heard from the banking side. So Mr. Charles Jokoto, with his boss, Mr. Charles Jokoto is actually the growth commercial manager for FNB, the First National Bank. And he's here with also his boss. We're going to deliberate and have conversations on how the Widu program could unlock potential partnerships and then capital to drive it forward. We'd also have in the room, of course, our very own, the moderator of the panel, Solomon Chum. The person who is going to facilitate the conversation will be my colleague and the team lead for Ghana team now, Kofi Baini, our Ghana program manager, will be moderating that discussion. A lot of the people in the room have also expressed a lot of interest for the Scania conversation. So we have another breakout session with Scania, which is, I'm changing the breaking because our vocabulary has been changed. They said we should say dismantling barriers. So now we are changing to dismantling barriers, empowering women in complex and emerging industries. So Scania's focus is also to interface with key agencies. We have in the room a lot of hubs and of course, some people who have interest in expanding opportunities for women in these sectors like technology, as Regina mentioned, transportation. There's an exciting thing that I had conversation one time with somebody who said that when women drive, there are less accidents on the road. And it's true, right? We need to check ourselves. Men are always under pressure. but the women know how to manage pressure. I'm an example of that right now. But anyway, the accidents will not happen because now Scania is beginning to look at women driving in the city. So we'll lessen that, which is a big program for us. And so Scania will be delving deep into that during the discussion. We have an exciting leader who was the foremost person, a woman who has been propagating women driving cars and all that. So we have Miss Taxi Ghana, Madam Esinam Nyado. He would also be connecting with us from Canada. So at this juncture, we are going to have, before we disperse into the breakout sessions, we have 2 change talks, an inspiring thing that would then move us into the breakout sessions, right? So we have a very amazing lady who has been building a green business from circularity perspective. She's by the name Eunice Mawena Chloe. I met her during the Young Green Entrepreneurs Forum. We have in the room a couple of reps on that project. So thank you guys for joining us. And then on that, the idea behind us bringing her on this is that we currently have a sort of partnership arrangement with Village Capital, which is an exciting project with the NORAD, that's the Norwegian Development Corporation. And we're going to be launching a program very soon. So be looking out for that from Reach for Change perspective. And so without much ado, let me welcome Eunice Mawena Chloe, who's going to give us a 5-minute change talk. And then after that, we'll hear from another amazing change leader from Reach for Change. I won't mention her name yet, so give it up for Eunice. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Also, this 5 minutes, so I'll try to be snappy. Okay, my slides, please. Okay, thank you. Okay. The power of one idea. Most of us have ideas here, and it all starts with that thought. But if we take the next step, it can transform communities. It can even revolutionize industries and change lives. So today, I want to tell you about my story. My name is Eunice Mawena Chloe, as Andy said, and I want to tell you how one idea changed into a mission for deforestation and transforming lives. So you see me there. My entrepreneurial journey started in the university. I had just gained admission into KNUST, and I was a shy first-year student who was trying to find her feet. Most importantly, I felt so overwhelmed. I didn't even know where to begin. Then I joined Enactors. I don't know if you've heard of them. It stands for Entrepreneurial Action in Arts. And I was fascinated by the idea that businesses could be a force for good. It's not just about amassing wealth and enriching yourself and making yourself feel better, but it was the fact that profit and sustainability could coexist and still make things better. So I committed to the organization. So you can see me here, my first year. I got the chance to explore a lot of platforms. Then in my 3rd year, something changed. I led a project, Be the Green, and that changed the rest of my life. Be the Green is a project that is aimed at solving the problem of deforestation in rural and urban communities. Deforestation associated with charcoal production. But one thing that made sense to me was that it's not just about just using charcoal, but the lives that are affected by the use of charcoal. So Be the Green is charcoal produced from crop waste. It looks just like the traditional charcoal, but it's an efficient source of energy for cooking. We run a sustainable supply chain model that links farmers to our production. So this is the whole concept. We have farmers who have a lot of waste, and at the end of the farming season, they'll just burn it. Deforestation, there's emission of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But then, what if waste could be a source of energy? And so farmers can make an extra source of income from trading in their waste for cash. It's not a big source of income, but it's an incentive for them to not burn their waste. And then charcoal is produced for the use and everything. Now, I wanted to understand that charcoal is not just fuel to them. It's rooted in their culture and traditions, from street food vending to communal gatherings, and most importantly, spiritual purification. Yes, a lot of people might ask why, but yes, it does. And then we have funeral rites. That is what it means to them. But understanding what it means to them means that if we are providing them a solution, it means it needs to give them the same effect they want. And so with BD Green, they can still have their traditions and still move on from there. Now, fast forward, BD Green is not just giving them charcoal. We want them to reimagine waste. Because most of the time, we think waste is something that should be thrown away. But we need to stop thinking linearly, but in a cycle. What if waste is a source for another production process? And that is what we are doing. So BD Green is reimagining waste. It's providing a fair and inclusive market for farmers to source and sell their waste for extra cash. And most importantly, it's about women who are empowered by using our products, because the quality of cooking and working is so much easier. Imagine inhaling smoke every day whilst going about your general duty. Now, fast forward, I always thought entrepreneurship is about making money, you have a great idea, you get paying customers, then the next thing is you start generating profit. But it's a far cry from it. There are so many barriers around sourcing sustainably, because running green businesses is not like general brick and mortar businesses that just have to sell a product. And so the next way forward was to embrace these challenges, because through embracing these challenges, we experience growth. Now, coming to Change Talks, people might wonder why Change Talks. Change Talks provides a platform to empower our ideas, to magnify them so that people can hear our stories and start changing their own ways. So if you are sitting here and you have an idea, you just need to take the first step. Take that bold decision now and act. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ines. Please, let's do it better for her. What a project to make sure we restore our degraded areas. And it's also a call on sustainability, and the panel actually tackled those aspects also. And of course, the breakout session is going to dive deep, in particular on the work of Scania West Africa and what they have in store for women businesses within that space. The next Change Talk is from Na Anyele Pebi of Pebi Cups. She was one of our change leaders in our Jacobs Scaling Readiness Program, where we trained and supported EdTech innovators to build very, very solid programs to help bridge gaps within digital literacy and also reading, and then also their technological footprint when it comes to education. Please help me welcome Na Anyele Pebi of Pebi Cups. I think you should give her more moral support as she works here.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Anyele Pebi, co-founder and CEO of Pebi Cups. I'm sure many of us have heard this saying: if you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book. Now that's saying, oh, is it offensive? It does feel quite offensive. But then if you're in the education space, you probably heard, according to the World Bank in 2022, 9 out of 10 children in sub-Saharan Africa cannot read and understand a simple story by the age of 10. Now, that low literacy is caused by insufficient book resources, very large class sizes, and a general lack of appreciation for reading in this context. So unfortunately, even though reading is foundational to all other learning, many children have information hidden from them. Many Black children have things hidden from them because they can't read. Now, Pericubs exists to solve this problem. Pericubs is an edtech company that offers a fun, evidence-based, cost-effective reading program that empowers children to succeed by becoming proficient readers. Now, we are not just giving access to books, we are actually creating a reading experience that makes children want to read, because our mission, our vision is every family successful through a vibrant culture of reading. Now, this is based on the research, which is very clear that the love for reading is a stronger indicator of a child's success in school and beyond than even their parents' level of education or socioeconomic status. So we have a very bold vision. Actually, not just regarding families in Ghana, but actually getting every family across Africa in the developing context to be successful through reading. Now, this bold vision didn't start with a grand business plan. It started rather small. I am a mother of only 7 children. And we used to live in Montreal, Canada, where we lived across a public library. And this library had 100,000 books, and we love reading. So we used to borrow books, 40 per person. So in the winter, I would go with a suitcase to borrow books. So in 2017, we're coming to Ghana for 6 months, and we didn't want our children to lose their reading habit. So we said, well, I did what every book-loving mama would do, right? I bought 1,000 books and shipped them to Ghana so that our children could sustain their reading habit. Now, when we came to Ghana with the books, their friends, cousins enjoyed reading from our collection. And so we thought, there's a need here for engaging content that children can access that will help them to enjoy reading. And so let's start a small library. So we did the small library, kept on buying books from book sales. This is my daughter when she was 9. And buy lots of books, pack them, ship them to Ghana. We kept doing that till 2020. We had thousands of books. And we're partnering with schools and gaining traction and excitement. And then COVID struck. So now we had thousands of books, and we had in the library, and we had all the children at home. So we pivoted and began to do an online community for reading, and later in 2020, started our own platform, which is kind of like a Netflix of books for children that is strongly evidence-based to enable them to succeed through reading. Fast forward till now, we've had over 17,000 children use our platform, and currently have children reading hundreds of books, not only in Accra, but in Takrade, in Takwa, in Sunyani, in Kumasi, in Tamale, all the way to Wa and Navrongo. And we are pretty excited about that. We've had 7,000 of these be paid users, and also partnered currently with 85 schools. Last year, 2023, the children read and passed quizzes on 185,000 books. And last year was around 300,000 books. One thing that we really enjoyed also is strong partnerships. Of course, we are in the Jacobs Foundation Reach for Change Scaling Readiness Program. That was very, very important in giving us a strong foundation in developing an effective solution and also scaling our business. And then partner with UNESCO to do a national reading campaign through Accra World Book Capital that had 1 million people reached through the media. And we are currently in the MasterCard Foundation Educational Technology Fellowship. We also are passionate about evidence, because what we have to do has to work. It can't just be nice, it has to actually help children to get better at reading. So we are very delighted to have some evidence certification, which is crucial in this context. But this hasn't been a walk in the park, far from it. In fact, it's been more like a marathon, with the finishing line moving every now and then. And even occasionally, the entire road being removed. People have talked about the challenges we face in the context, so I wouldn't belabor the point. But the 2 main ones I would mention would be funding. Everyone loves this idea of getting children to love reading so they succeed in school. So you ask for money, and then that becomes a challenge. Investors want to see way more traction and profitability. And then the donors want to see much more rural impact and RCTs. We need funding for where we are now, not where we'll be in the future. The second one is mindset, but in this case, not the mindset of perhaps not only my mindset as an entrepreneur, but the mindset of the paying users. We get children so excited about reading, and then sometimes they're reading a lot and their parents still refuse to pay for their products when they can afford it, but they buy KFC. No offense to KFC. So the mindset, the perception around reading is one major challenge we have to deal with. That said, I love this picture, and we keep it in front of us. We get children excited about reading, of all things, in this context. And so, in spite of the challenges, we'll press on, because ignoring the literacy problem or not trying to solve it has far greater consequences. So a few learnings, I see my time is up before we move, I get off the stage. A few learnings. First one, as an African entrepreneur, as a woman African entrepreneur, I would say that if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you will never move. Our challenges in Africa are not going to end tomorrow, and so move anyway. The second one is, people will cheer you on, but very few people will actually push the car with you. So those who encourage, thanks for encouraging. Encouragement is free. Real commitment is rare. And so if you're an entrepreneur, when you get those who are really committed, treasure them. Third one is, as an African entrepreneur, sometimes your major competitor is not necessarily another business, it's a mindset. Changing perceptions around reading has been way more difficult than building a reading app. And so that's one thing that we realized. And then the other thing is sustainability. Revenue is important, paid customers are important, and that's one thing we're having to prioritize in order to be sustainable. The last thing is partnerships. One is too small a number to achieve greatness. Tackling this issue takes collaboration and partnerships. We are grateful to Reach for Change for giving us the foundation in these partnerships and for continually cheering us on, as well as the other partners we've had in this space. Now, I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I didn't pitch in the end, so I'm going to do that. I would say literacy or helping children to get better at reading doesn't stop there. We are actually shaping the next generation for Africa. The readers today are the leaders tomorrow. So I would say come alongside, let's partner, so that we can make the continent a better place. Because as we like to say in Pebby Cups, success is just a book away. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. The thoughts that she left with us, to ponder on, the one I like is, people don't like to push the car with you, right? How did she say it? Pebby Cups, reiterate that again. Everyone will cheer you, but few people will push the car with you. Please, we are cheering you on, and we'll push the car with you also. I'm just kidding. Of course, we'll push the car with you. And with that said, we are pushing the car with so many entrepreneurs, and not just Pebby Cups, but in our Jacob Scaling Readiness program that we did. We had so many change leaders who were a part of that. A lot of them have transitioned to be a part of even amazing programs that are currently happening in Ghana and also in Ethiopia, where we are supporting more EdTech entrepreneurs with the MasterCard Foundation EdTech Fellowship Program. With that said, let me acknowledge some of the few cohort members. The folks in the room, please give me a wave. When I mention your name, wave. Speech Forces, amazing, wonderful. So Eric has been building Speech Forces, giving opportunities for young people in debates to learn how to debate, and also break this barrier of not being shy, timidity, and all that. So amazing job you're doing there. Let me also acknowledge QNO EdTech, who is currently trailblazing, doing amazing things with University of Colorado. Wonderful work going on. And of course, STEM Bees. STEM Bees. Linda is an amazing entrepreneur. She does so many other things aside STEM, building STEM systems for young people. She's a passionate advocate for sports also, women in sports. You should talk to her on her initiatives on sports. Amazing stuff. We also have a few entrepreneurs in the room, some of our legends. I just spotted him once again. Kofi Annan, James Kofi Annan, who has built one of the most sensitive programs there is, helping to make sure that child trafficking is curtailed or stopped or dismantled. I like dismantled, right? So let's give it up for these change leaders. And of course, our Cecilia Fiaka and also Regina and all the change leaders in the room. We want to see more of the entrepreneurs. So please get to show up and let's get to know you. At this moment, we'll be transitioning into our breakout sessions. So we'll have a lot more people here. So please stay calm and sit here with us. The other breakout session is a small group of people that GIZ wants to interface with and solicit ideas from. So a few people will be leaving us. They are not really leaving. They are just next door. They are still our neighbors. So we are going to manage the microphone, the voice here, so that it doesn't disturb the conversation place there. And so if you are within the financial sector, if you are somebody who pools capital, I'm going to be mentioning names, but I don't want to make sure, I don't want to leave anybody out of it. So help me. A few people that we've identified, like the FNB, we have also UNIDO here. Let me acknowledge the presence of the national coordinator for UNIDO. When I was mentioning his name, he wasn't here. Mr. Joseph Yubua, thank you so much for joining us, national coordinator for UNIDO, and also leading the networking cluster of the United Nations Agency for Industrial Development. We also have a few people that are presently here. We had in our midst the UNFPA resident rep, Dr. Okan. I saw him here. Yeah, he would also be with us. I'm pretty sure he's still around. A few of our key partners and collaborators who have been with us on the journey, particularly the ESO Collaborative Network, the likes of One Hive Ghana, Janat Isifu. I've seen you right there also. She was also one of our women leaders in a program that we did in the past for women fellows. So she's also a fellow on Rich for Change side. We also have here Bima and Sustenance. Sustenance has also been one of our partners. So let me acknowledge the presence of Bima. Thank you so much for joining us. And all the way from in Ethiopia, Rich for Change Markets is big. We also have with us a country manager for Rich for Change Ethiopia, Megdim Gulalat. Thank you so much for joining us. And Megdim, awesome. Megdim is going to be a part of the breakout session with Scania. And so at this juncture, the people have moved into the other room. So FNB, please use the door on the right if you're part of the breakout. So Charles Jokoto and then also the team from FNB, kindly join the other breakout session. So kindly use the door here. This door will be locked, so there won't be access here. It's only for the speaker. So and also people being a part of that conversation, please use the door here. We have also the Obsidian Achna, a VC firm that would also be joining the conversation. And then also would love to have maybe SNV, Ruben, if you could, Mr. Otu, if you could also join the other breakout session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Harry. Okay, so let me also, so at this point, let me ask you to come forward. If there's a seat behind you for the Scania breakout, please move forward. I would be happy to also, we have also in our midst, I just saw one of my bosses, Mr. Kwekwe Champion. He's the head of finance and operations for Reach for Change Africa region. Thank you so much for joining us. I would love to have Kweku be a part of the breakout session with Scania Widu program to advise them on how we can unlock capital. Kweku, please help join that conversation for us. Thank you. Okay. Harun just stepped out. He said it's not running away. So at this point, I'm going to just come here and then break the ice from all this protocolic things going on. So please, it's time for breakout session. I need you to come forward a bit. There's a moderator, there's a team that is supporting us for this, and I need to acknowledge Challenges Ghana. Challenges Ghana has been in the space for quite some time. I won't do the introduction for them because their Access to Finance lead is here, who is going to do that. So Challenges Ghana is supporting us to moderate the conversation for this breakout session. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Mr. Kelly Anyomiche. I got the name right. Kelly Anyomiche. Let's give it up for Kelly, who's going to talk to us real quick about the concept for this breakout session and then also carry on with the flow.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. Let's give it up to Andrew for the great job that he's doing. No, I don't think that was good enough. Please, let's give him a round of applause. He's doing a great job.
It's not easy, man. I need the funds.
Yeah, and he's looking good as well. Guys, look at his suit. All right, so like he already said, this is going to be a breakout room conversation, very much revolved around the work that Scania has done. And we have Harun, who has stepped out, so we are going to buy some time until he comes back in. But before we go into any deep conversations, I would just like to pick your thoughts on how the day is going so far. Are you guys enjoying yourself? I can't hear your response. Are you enjoying yourself? All right, so what have you picked so far, boss?
What I've learned so far is the need to give support to our ladies, the women, in whatever venture they are up to. The funding is one of the main challenges that we all have. And I think we need to concentrate on in that aspect of the businesses. Thank you.
Let's give it up to him. All right, so just off the point you made about supporting our women, that's exactly the focus of this breakout rooms discussion. So let me just run you through what the topic is. We are going to be looking at, and Andy said we shouldn't use breaking barriers, we should use dismantling barriers. So dismantling barriers, empowering women in complex and emerging industries. Before we go deep, I would like to welcome on stage Megdem. Is she around? Okay, great, there you are. To give us a welcome message. And once she's done, she would introduce Harun, who would now give us the story behind the amazing work that Scania has been doing, empowering women and helping them push the truck, right? So now what they are trying to do is get us all together so we can cheer them. So we are going to cheer them as they push the truck. So let's give it up to her. She gives us the welcome message.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Good afternoon. My first time in Ghana, and I'm loving it. Thank you so much for the hospitality. You have such a lovely country. So my name is Megdem, and I came from Ethiopia, and I am the country manager for Reach for Change Ethiopia there. And while we've been saying a lot about what Reach for Change has been doing, the push and the support that we are doing for social entrepreneurs, I just want to once again sort of like bring our attention to the conversations that we're going to have around the new partnership that we are really excited to have with Scania, GIZ, and other partners. But before that, I just want to mention a little bit about our focus, intentional focus at Reach for Change. So Reach for Change, as we've been saying, we are having a clear focus of supporting social entrepreneurs. And we have also a very clear strategy of in which areas that we will be supporting our social entrepreneurs. So our strategy is very clear that areas of poverty, climate, ecosystem building is the 3 pillars. And the 4th one actually is very critical for Africa. That is youth and women economic empowerment. So Reach for Change has been doing a lot. We have been having a lot of projects here in Ghana, Senegal, Ethiopia for quite some time. At the moment in Ethiopia, we have actually stepped a little bit further from our normal programming, and we are into our into humanitarian programming, where we're supporting the country in the initiatives of durable solution. We're partnering with IOM to support 200 women who are internally displaced due to war and conflict, in making sure that they have the understanding and way forward in terms of how they can build their own and their family's economy resilience. Earlier on, Harun actually speak a very true observation of our African family. women support, women shoulder like the family, the entire family. And 50 is not an exaggeration, because my daughter is mine, my niece is also mine. I have that responsibility as a family. So how can we empower women? How can we actually enable one another, support one another in terms of uplifting, being inspiration, bringing inspiration and mentorship for the different challenges that we've been talking about. But ultimately, the change may not be as fast as we want to see, but the change is there. Change is inevitable. Change is in every day. And also through partnership is where we can also go far. The ultimate reason is not about going fast, yeah? We know this proverb. It's about going far. To go far, we need partners. We cannot do it all. We need to be action-oriented, but at the same time, we need to also partner with those who have the capacity, the technical understanding, and the ways, understand the ways and the politics of navigating through different challenges. Through partnership, we can go far. And that is very, very important message that as Reach for Change that we've been advocating today and in every day of our program implementation. So now this breaking session is about a collaboration and a partnership that Reach for Change has been having a dialogue with Scania, GIZ about the clear focus as a country that you have in Ghana for mining and its dependency on transportation. And what are the untapped opportunities for women that we can really deliberate and engage with? And as a showcase, what is actually the experience of our partners, Scania, that they have done that they want to share with us? They want to sort of bring the insight and strike a conversation about how challenges can be capitalized as opportunities. At the end of the day, entrepreneurialism is about like seeing the challenge and capitalizing it on as an opportunity in terms of business creation, in terms of contributing back to the society. So leading this conversation, I would be calling upon Harun, Service and Training Manager at Scania West Africa, and he would be presenting to us on the work of Scania West Africa in bridging gaps and creating opportunities for women participating in emerging industries such as transportation. So please welcome Harun, and looking forward for an exciting conversation with all of you.
Thank you very much. Do you want me on the stage or here? Does it matter? No. I don't have anything on my phone. I don't have anything written on a paper. I don't have a presentation. I'll speak from this part. We have some successes at Scania with partnerships focusing on women. 2017, I was given the task here in Ghana to run a public-private partnership, a PPP, in cooperation between Scania, GIZ, and GTTC, which is the government or the Ghanaian Technical Training Center. The KPIs that we had was to train 600 drivers, 60 technicians, and make it sustainable business model. Of course, with the sustainable development goals in the back of our head, we knew, okay, at least 10% of these trainees that we would have should be women. As I said before, Scania is a business. We are here to do business, to make money. But at the same time, we have a social obligation. And in that aspect, we said, okay, we got a question from GAPTE. I think all of you know GAPTE or the ILOLO buses. They came to us and said, look, you delivered all the buses to us. No, you delivered all the buses to us, but we need more drivers. They needed 60 drivers. And within the context of our program, we said, are you okay in having female drivers? And they said, no problem. So having in mind that we were looking for 60 women, we thought that's going to be a problem, because I would be happy if I find one. That was my really honest, my first opinion. Setting up a social campaign on Facebook, TV, newspapers, whatever it was. We actually had to stop when we achieved 450. Then we said, that's it, because it's way too many. Long story short is that at a certain point we said, okay, from these 450, we need to do some shortlisting. I don't remember all the details because I'm talking about 2017, 2018. I'm getting old. My memory is getting old as well. But we had a medical examination. We had a request of a certain level of education. We had a minimum age. We had a maximum age as well. What else did we have? We had interviews. They had to motivate why they wanted to be part of this training program, because bear in mind that this training program, it would take 6 months, 5 days a week, excluding the holidays. So that's a very long time, and you understand much more than me what kind of effect it is of a woman, a wife being away from their family 5 days a week. There were people from the north of Ghana, they were from everywhere a bit. So eventually we thought, okay, the customer is asking for 60. Let's take a bit more. Let's take 73. Why 73? Why not 75? I don't remember. But with the idea, on the first day that we start, some of them will not show up. I'm really honest. That was my perception. Some of them will not show up. At the end of the day, some of them will leave and they will not return. The first week, half of them will be gone. So I would be very happy if by the end of the 6 months that we will have 10 ladies. Really honest, my opinion. And I always get goosebumps when I talk about it. For the 6 months, we had 73 ladies. None of them missed one training day. Really, you don't need to applaud for me because it's them. I have nothing to do with it. I just made it happen. That's it. So we had challenges, a lot. First of all, we had at a certain point when we did all the shortlisting from 450 all the way up to 73, we had an open day where we invited 150 of these candidates to explain to them, okay, this is the program, this is how it looks like, this is what we expect from you, and this is what you get in return. And the biggest promise that we made was, if you get your license, you will get a job at GAPTE, at Ayalolo. You will become a professional bus driver. Now, unfortunately, halfway through the program, they ceased to exist, or they stopped all operation because they had no financial means anymore. And that was, sorry, the only thing I can say was, shit, what now? Luckily enough, was that with what I call the bus ladies, it got a lot of media attention. And the good thing was that we had another company called Ladybird Logistics. Ladybird Logistics is a fuel transport company belonging to Zen Petroleum. And they're one of the big suppliers of fuel from Takoradi to Tarkwa, where all the mining activities are a bit. And they had since long the idea to have a transport company led by ladies, female drivers. So they came, when they heard about what we did with the bus ladies, they came to Scania and said, we want to buy Scanias if you help us to find, recruit, and train female drivers, which we did, total 46. So that created opportunity for some of these bus ladies to be retrained again for another 6 months after they finished the first 6 months, because driving a bus is completely different than driving a truck with a trailer with 30,000 liters of fuel. It's completely different skills. At the same time, when we were going along with Ladybird Logistics, we had one of their competitors called Horgli Transport. It's one of the biggest ones in Ghana, I've been told. And there was a bit of different approach because we already sold trucks to them. But the lady that I will introduce later, she actually took the opportunity. She came with the idea, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I always explain it like this, that let's go there and sell the women, sell female drivers to them. And long discussions, a lot of negotiations with them, but at the end they employed, and we trained for them 12 extra ladies as well. And they are still there, some of them, not all. Was it all sunshine and roses and so on? No. We had some, and I want to stay polite, we had some sexual harassment coming from our trainers. You know, we work together with GTTC, with the NDA, the National Driving Academy. We had some challenges which I didn't anticipate, to be honest. I never thought that we would struggle with sexual harassment, with bribery, because we told them in the beginning, we didn't train the trainers to them, and they trained on our behalf. And I told them, I was very clear, look, you put on the hat now, it says Scania, it says GIZ. Scania, multinational, GIZ, for me, that's the German government. So, you know, take your responsibility. Be aware of what you represent. But again, sexual harassment, bribery, whatever, what happened and so on. But the big success was that from the 73 women from the bus ladies, that 58 of them got their driving license. And another spin-off of this, it's a bit funny to say, but we trained them, because I think 9, except for one, none of them ever had a steering wheel in their hand. So they actually started from zero, from scratch, which is quite impressive, going from nothing, you know, to driving a bus 13-meter long. You know, that's not something. And we told them, look, we train you with an agreement with DVLA, with the Ministry of Transport, because normally you're not allowed to do this. It's illegal to go from no license all the way to an F. Normally it takes 10 years. So they had to do their driving test, both theory. Afterwards, if they passed, they could do the practice. And the result was that when we tested all these ladies and they got their driving license, that at the end, DVLA contacted me and they say, look, you're sending these ladies to us. We tested them, and it has shown that our examiners, our own staff, are less skilled, less competent than the ladies that you trained. So it actually resulted in us training 50 of DVLA trainers. And we are repeating this again. We still have a very close relationship with DVLA. Am I missing one of the... No, Horley, Ladybird, and that's it. Having this kind of approach on driver training, focus on women, is actually generating business for us. We're not selling 100,000 trucks tomorrow because of it, but it does help us. It's like a sales argument that we can sell, that we can say to our customer, look, buy trucks, and if you want, we can help you to recruit, train, find women. Because I have the proof, as I said earlier, I have the proof that women are better drivers. Really. I made a study about it. I don't want to become too technical, but the trucks that we have at Scania, they are equipped with a computer. And that computer that gathers all the real-time data, meaning that you can actually see if the driver, how he's pushing the accelerator, how he's pushing the brake, what kind of load he has. It's like 120 different parameters. And there was actually, the original question came from a customer, and he says, you know, I want to work on safety, health, and environment. He was the top of the SHE department from a very big international company. And he said, you know, everybody knows, if we're really honest, that women are better drivers. Because we men, you know, full of testosterone, whatever it is, I want to be the best and the quickest and whatever. Women, they have a more soft approach. And he says, the only data available is coming from insurance companies, from driving schools, or from statistics saying, okay, most of the ladies, they get their license much quicker, they do less accidents, though the insurance fees are less, and so on and so on. He said, but it's nothing really tangible. And it made me think, when I was here in Ghana in 2020, I was stuck in my apartment due to COVID for 8 months. and I couldn't go home. And it made me think, and I said, we have two customers. They have identical trucks, and I know one of them is driven only by men, the other one is only driven by women. So I pulled down all the data, and swear by God, I never manipulated any of the figures, but it has shown that if you train women for, let's say, high quality training, 6 months, that after the 6 months, they achieve the same level as their male colleagues who have gathered experience for 15 years or plus, that they at least achieve the same level or better. And that's based on real-time data. You can actually see that they have a different driving style. This different driving style is not only good for insurance fees and accidents and whatever, it's also good for environment. Also for total cost of operation, because if you treat your vehicle, your equipment better, you have less stress and wear on it, which means that at the end you will have less repairs, less maintenance to do, less cost, and at the same time also environment, because you have less fuel consumption, less CO2. So it's challenging, and getting these women into our program or generating the interest, that was no problem. But getting the women accepted by their families to take part of this for such a long time, some of them, they struggled a lot. A lot. It was very difficult. Some of them, they came, they had to go back, and then, Uncle X or Auntie I or whatever said, no, trucking, that's nothing to do for women, which, it's based on nothing. It's not true. Yes, if we go back 50, 60 years ago, you needed to have some muscles because, there was power steering and whatever it is, it was more physical. But now, if you look at the technology that we have in our trucks, anyone can do it. You can drive around with just one finger. The only thing you need to do is focus on the road, focus on the safety. Yeah, if I start, you need to stop me. Otherwise, I'll continue until tomorrow morning if you want. Yes, thank you for reminding me. There is one thing that was of such a great value, and as the person I will introduce you now, that's Miss Taxi. I don't know how many of you know Miss Taxi. Miss Taxi is a local entrepreneur, all about women empowerment. She has her own taxi company. To be honest, I don't really remember how she fitted in or how she came into our program with the bus ladies, but she acted a bit as the spokesperson. And that was a very great value for us because, I see myself as very approachable. I'm not the big boss of Scania, far from it. I was just a training manager. And I told him, if there's any problem, my office door is open. If you want my phone number, I'll give you my phone number. But there was some distance between the ladies and myself for them to approach me if there was an issue. And that was a big advantage we had with Miss Taxi, with Essenam, that she collected the problems. She called me together with my colleague from GIZ. We addressed the issues and so on and so on. So we have unfortunately, I was really, really, really hoping that she could be here, but she's a very busy woman. She's studying now in Canada. It's 8 hours difference, so she's somewhere in Vancouver, the west side of Canada. But she prepared a video feed for us. So if you can start that video, please.
Fellow participants in this breakout session, my name is Esina Nyago, and I work for Miss Taxi Ghana. It's a shame I couldn't make it to this session. However, I'm so grateful to good old internet for making my virtual participation a possibility and to share my story with you. Miss Taxi Ghana was born out of a field quest. A field quest by a young lady back in the year 2012 to become a tipper truck or a dump truck driver. she had combed the length and breadth of Accra, scouting for a master driver to take her on as a trainee driver, and hopefully gain the experience to manage a monster truck on the road. But that failed. You should hear as to why they couldn't take me on as a trainee driver. It's simple. I'm a woman. They gave me 1,001 reasons why they thought I couldn't survive the industry or the occupation as a woman. I was disappointed, I must confess. So then I settled down. I had to tone down my ambition. I settled on the taxi service business, which I had started. But it came with a lot of challenges. It did come with a lot of challenges. Number one, acceptance. Acceptance by the gatekeepers of the industry, and also acceptance from your clients or the clientele base or the market segment that you or I wanted to serve. So those were the major challenges. Acceptance by the male colleagues into taxi unions, and also acceptance from the service users. I did find a couple of ways to mitigate that, and that was through my association with the media, I would say. Well, it's very uncommon for a woman to be driving a taxi, offering full taxi service to clients. So I sort of stuck out. So the local media noticed, not only the local media, but also the international media platforms had also picked it up. And soon, I would say the challenges that was associated with the market segment started dismantling itself, because my whole story had generated social conversations. And I remember I'll be driving down the streets of Accra, I'll tune in into radio stations, and I'm basically the topic of discussions on morning shows during rush hour. And I'll smile at it and laugh it off. But then, what gave me more confidence is the fact that not only was I driving out of curiosity, but also I had taken it a step further, because I was studying for my master's, and I was basically driving my thesis. So the taxi wasn't just a social experiment to solicit answers to the perception of the Ghanaian society when it came to or comes to occupational gender segregation, but it was my full-blown academic studies, academic thesis research. So that gave me a leverage that also propelled the ways I mitigated these obstacles I had faced. It created not only social conversations, it created academic conversations, and lo and behold, such conversations ended up on the decks of Scania West Africa. And very soon I found myself having discussions with the management of Scania West Africa, and the discussions bordered on projects they have been cooking or projects that they are designing, and they wanted my opinion about it because I had just finished this thesis on occupational gender segregation, and I'm still practicing as a female taxi driver and an entrepreneur, basically. So I would say that link, that connection of generating industry conversation, yes, that's the word, generating industry conversations through research findings, and also linking up with prominent stakeholders within the industry sort of became the help or the aid that propelled Miss Taxi into becoming a notable force of change when it comes to attempting to increase the percentage of women's participation in the transport sector in Ghana, basically. Not only did I find Scania West Africa as a very formidable partner, but I also found the German Development Corporation also as a formidable partner, because at that point, GIZ and Scania and another governmental organization had formed a consortium in trying to design and come up with a project that would train women, and not just women with experience, as in female drivers with no experience at all, to become bus drivers. So that, I would say, is the help Miss Taxi ended up finding that sort of shaped things and made Miss Taxi a valuable contributor to that space, within that space of having women participate in the transport service sector. One would ask, what is the future for Miss Taxi? As much as we are ambitious and want to do more and more and more, I would say
All right, let's give it up to Miss Taxi and then obviously Haroon as well. Let's applaud them for that great initiative. Unfortunately, we are not doing too well with time. We have less than 10 minutes to go, but we can't live without exploring your appreciation of this initiative. And one other thing we seek to get out of this breakout room discussion is, how do we leverage the lessons that has been applied in the Scania context in other male-dominated complex sectors like mining, like tech, like engineering. So we would delve a bit into that. And I would just like to find out from the room, anyone from the mining sector here? Anyone from the mining sector? Okay, great. So we have someone from the mining sector. Anyone from a core engineering space? Not all mining. Similar to this. Okay, great. So I'm going to start with you. And Harun is also quite very interested in organizations that are within the mining space because of the phase 2 of this project. So just share with us first your own thoughts about this initiative and where you see a possible opportunity between your organization and then Scania's project.
Okay, thank you. I think we've already started a conversation with Harun, Donald from GIZ. We met the last time in our office to have the discussion on the second phase for this. So we are implementing a project to enhance local procurement in the mining industry. That was why I said I was doing something in mining. So we are having this conversation.
Don't talk
I don't
too
want to
much
talk
about
much
it.
about it
Please.
because it's still cooking. So let me just leave it for here.
All right, great. Let's give it our team. So that's GIZ exploring some potential opportunities with Scania on this to sort of expand the scope into the mining space. But I have a question for you though, Harun. You spoke earlier on about how the space is very much male dominated, and you started off with training about 73 women for GAPTI, which is the Ayalulu buses.
Correct.
How did you navigate the space where your 73 female bus drivers have to still operate within a space where the males are the ones driving with, quote unquote, the very strong-fisted approach to driving? So, right, so you now have your females driving within that same enclave. How was it like?
That was not us. That was the ladies themselves. What we did, you know, what I explained you earlier, all the cooperation we did, GAPTE, Horgly, Ladybird Logistics, everything was part of the public-private partnership, meaning it was a cooperation between Scania, GIZ, and GTTC at that point, which means that we provided training, and the training cost, everything was financed 50-50 by Scania, and the remaining was from GIZ. Now, we did everything related to our own knowledge. And the thing that GIZ took at their charge was to provide additional training, like empowerment. And I'm sorry, I don't remember all the specific details, but I remember that we had someone like an inspirational speaker to come to them, sit them in a room, and you know, brainstorm on how to tackle all these things. Because, you know, not me personally, I mean, from Scania's side, that's very difficult to do. We're not in that company. What we did, we trained them, we gave them the opportunity to get the license, which 58 of them actually achieved, and then we created strong partnerships. And in case things went shit, then we, you know, our obligation was we need to find you a job. But at the end, it's them working at the employer, not us. And a good thing that you bring this actually up, because besides our lady Miss Taxi here, there is one when we were starting with Horgly Transport, which was a very small number. It was just 12 ladies. We had the chance that we had, or the luck that we had Miss Oye as working as a spokesperson a bit. And I actually met her a couple of weeks ago. Now, I'm very sad that she's not here as well, but at the same time, I'm very proud to say that she actually found a job in Europe as a professional truck driver. She went to Europe, to Lithuania. She applied for a job. She done all the tests locally. She passed the Code 95, which is a certificate that you need to show that you know all the administration and all the regulations on how to drive a truck in Europe. And today she's in Milan. She's on her way to Lithuania. There are 6 other ladies from the group of 150 that has found the same opportunity in Europe. A bit on the sideline, from the 60 technicians that we trained, we had some of our own technicians that were employed by Scania here locally. One of them moved to Guinea for us, to Nigeria. Then he worked for almost 3 years for me in Ivory Coast. He didn't speak one word French when he arrived. He was quite fluent when he left. And he found a job, Scania Australia. A few of them went to New Zealand. A few of them ended up in the UK. So, I'm sad that they leave, but at the same time, I'm very proud that, this is an opportunity that the salary that they would get locally is far from what they would get somewhere else. And that has a huge effect on their families. Coming back for Oye, when she applied for the job in Europe from this company, and it's a quite big transport company, the guy that she talked to, he said, I don't care if you're a woman or a man. You're my truck driver. And I will not treat you differently. I will treat you all the same. And I asked her, but how do you do with a simple thing like washrooms and these kind of things? She says, we sort it out ourselves. We talk with the guys and we try to become one of them. Or not one of them, but be part of the group. And yes, you're a woman, yes, you're a man, but so what? Because she says, if we're gonna come in here and we're gonna demand with our demands and say, we're a woman, we need this, because otherwise we don't do this, that's closing doors. That's my own personal opinion a bit. So, changing the mindset.
Yeah.
So,
great. So I'm going to come back to the audience, and this time to the females. Let me see by hands how many of us are willing to train as truck drivers. No, raise it. I want to see it clearly. Raise your hands up high. How many of us are willing to train as truck drivers? I see 1, I see 2, 3, 4. Is that all? 5. Okay, now it's increasing. 6, 7, 8. So we take that again.
But to look for an opportunity to encourage others to have such an opportunity if it still exists.
What got you excited about it?
Yeah, it's a male-dominated area that we women shy away from.
Correct.
There are women who could do better, like he rightly said, on the wheel. Okay, and it's happening elsewhere in this world, but not here. Why don't we also expose our women to that? Who sit in the house, who have all the opportunity there to explore, that they don't have any work to do, but they are going to be better in that field. So I'm asking if the opportunity still exists, let me bring my girls. So
all right, Harun will be touching on that pretty soon about what the next step is and what the next phase for this is. But you already have an ambassador, yes, who will speak on your behalf.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Harun.
Hello, Talma.
So I have a very big question about driver training and female driver training. You talked about training them for 6 months. You mentioned GIZ funded, and then Scania also funded for the other half. Who should pay for driver training for, this project was done for GAPTI, for JK Hoggle, but for smaller organizations who might not be able to commit these funds, who should invest in this? How do we partner for this change as private sector, as social enterprise, to get more women into the driver's seat? That's my biggest question. And to answer your question about how the women navigate when they get on the road. So I work with an organization that does driver training. And in Uganda, what we did was, after training the women, we trained the men. So we did a gender training where gender is not just female, but male, because the men needed to be prepared to welcome women into their midst, because we can't just assume that women enter the space and men are comfortable. If there's just one washroom in the facility, the men are used to, being free with themselves, walking in. But if there's still just one washroom when the woman comes in, how do we get them to accept that now there's someone and we can't just be comfortable around them? How do we deal with them when they are pregnant? Because that has been the biggest barrier to private enterprises and businesses employing women, that what happens when she's pregnant? And we are not just talking about maternity leave here. We are talking about if she's in her first trimester and she's having a difficult pregnancy. Are you going to lay her off? Are you going to pay her for the 9 months if she happens to be bedridden for 9 months? Who is going to bear that cost? And like Scania, nobody is, well, some NGOs are doing that, but every business is in it for profit. How do you pay someone for 9 months to be at home? And it's not her fault. She's a woman. She has to go through that. So yeah, just to answer that and to ask Harun about funding, or to ask the room about funding. Thank you.
Interesting. Let's give it up to her. You've brought another perspective to it, which we didn't explore, like, which is beyond the training, beyond hitting the road with the bus. There are other offshoots to this whole discussion that we need to pay attention to. And I mean the financing gap as well. Scania can only do as much as possible, but for the larger scale, how do we ensure that we have a system in place that, you know, supports the business sustainably, but then also gets people feeling comfortable to do this? All right, so we take the last comment and then we go back to Harun.
You have to stop.
Okay, thank you. I'm impressed with the work that is being done. My question has to do with inclusiveness. Although we are talking about women in the informal sector have classes. So I work with the informal sector, and then the women I work with are Kayaye, internal migrants from northern Ghana. So as you mentioned, they have challenges with being single mothers, having kids like 1 year, 4-year-olds with them. So how inclusive is this program? Because if mothers like that who have migrated from other regions to the greater Accra have to also join such a program, the challenge is that if they even have to let their wards go to school, when they come here, they work. So leaving that work, which will give them their daily bread and also cater for the kids, to even join this training will be a challenge for them. So it wouldn't be that they are not interested in this project, but then there are so many challenges around them that will prevent them from participating in such projects. So how do you include these people in your program?
We are very limited. For example, if I remember correctly, with GAPTE, we spoke with them because, you know, they were the demanding party. They did a request. And to set the parameters on, for example, age, the minimum age, the maximum age, that came in discussion with them. Very sorry, I don't remember all the details. Again, I'm getting old. But for example, with Ladybird Logistics, or each time when we set up a training, we've been very clear, and we try to be as clear as possible. Say, look, if you want to become a truck driver or you want to become a bus driver professionally, it requires a certain, you know, there's like a workflow, which is, that's not us, that's not Scania, that's the customer. And that's something that needs to be negotiated and try to mitigate with the employer at the end. I remember that at a certain point, we had a question, or we had the idea to be included in salary negotiations. That's very difficult, especially, and I hope you understand, we are a supplier of the vehicle. At the same time, we helping them with, let's say, on the social side to find good female drivers and so on. But there's a limit on what we can do. I understand your question and I understand the issue. But that's a difficult question to answer, or to give you a solution for it. If I may just answer, because apparently I need to go for an interview, try to answer the question from Telma. on financing and so on. As I said earlier, one of the three KPIs from the training center that we built up together with GIZ was to make it sustainable business model. That we never achieved. Even until today, we cannot survive only with that because we have too low demands and too low capacity as well. Now, I've been away from Ghana for 4 years. I've been in Abidjan. And what I do know is that in the meantime, they found some kind of formula where they could cluster individuals to reduce the cost per head per training. Because to give an idea, the 6 months training that we've done for GAPTE, including lunch, the rent of the vehicle, fuel, insurance, whatever was included, costed, at that time, I'm talking about 2017, 2018, then I think 3.5 CDs was €1. Now it's 16. I'm talking about 150,000 euros. We spent 50,000 euros only for catering, just to provide lunch for 78 people for 6 months, 5 days a week. So it's a huge investment. And that's why, driver training is very expensive, because you have the fuel and you have the truck component, the vehicle, that needs to be paid somehow. So when I was doing my calculations, just to have a break even, not to make money, but just to have a break even, it became very, very expensive. But of course, at a certain point, we managed to create a certain image and to be sure that we could deliver quality. And now, I'm not making this up, we have ladies coming from Canada, Ghanaian ladies coming from Canada to follow an individual training here to prepare them to do the driving test in Canada. So,
yeah, we have to round up. All right. So, Harun, as we round up,
yes,
and conclude on this, please share with us the next phase of this.
Yes.
She had asked earlier on, is this still in progress? So what's the next phase?
I'll try to be short because they're expecting me somewhere else. One thing I can tell you, it's not written in stone yet, it's not fully agreed yet, but our plan now is to do a similar training program as what we've done for the truck ladies or the bus ladies. We're trying to focus on women in mining. Now, I know there's an organization in Ghana, and they actually called Women in Mining. I'm not copying their or stealing their title or their project, but we have a plan. It's already a concept. I made a draft of it together with GIZ. We're still discussing, and we would try to find women who want to participate in a similar training, maybe somewhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on what let's say the request is from the mining companies, because it's a very tough industry to get into. They have very high demands on safety and whatever it is. If it goes ahead, if we launch it, it will start probably end of the year, early next year. And it will be some additional program building on the success that we had with the other ones. Once we move forward, I can share more information with via Reach for Change and so on, and you will hear about it.
All right, join me. Let's applaud Harun for taking us through this breakout session. Thank you so much for the insights, and obviously for those of us who still have conversation points, you want to have a discussion with Harun. There's going to be a networking session. All right, you can still meet him during the networking session afterwards and share your thoughts, questions, and anything that's still bothering your mind. All right, so I understand the other session is still in progress. So we have a few minutes just to wrap up here. They will join us, and then we do the summaries. After that, I don't know what's next, but I'm sure Andy will tell us. So maybe let me go around the room again. There were certain ladies who didn't raise their hand when I asked if you wanted to learn how to drive a truck. Were you one of those people? You stepped out. Okay. I noticed certain people didn't raise their hand. So I just wanted to explore what is still that, challenge on people's minds, why they feel, maybe I don't want to go into truck driving now. Anybody wants to share that? Any reason you think probably there's no space you want to go in the meantime? And you have done some work around that, so maybe you can share some thoughts around that.
Okay, so the focus of my work is mostly on heavy goods vehicle driving. And the challenge with that is nobody does heavy goods vehicle driving between Kaneshie and Malam. It's usually Tema, Kumasi, Tema, somewhere from the port inland. And the challenge with that, and this is not just for women, but even for the men as well, is security and rest stops, safe rest stops. So if I want to drive and I'm not able to drive now, or I'm not pursuing it, it's because of things like that. Because where do I stop? The road is not safe. The male drivers are complaining about armed robbers on the road, attacking them, even in Accra before they leave. And they complain to the police, and the police don't do anything about it. STC had that, the passenger service vehicles like STC OA, they had those issues. And we realized that the police, at a point, they had ununiformed policemen on the buses. So that was addressed. But then why is it that for the trucks, it's like, apparently they even know who these armed robbers are, but they can't do anything about it. So this is a big barrier for women. And secondly, like I said, the cost of training is very high. Women, on the average, are paying about 10,000 cedis for 4 weeks of training. Where are they going to find those monies from? There's all the stereotype around, you're a woman, you can't drive. So who is going to invest that into you? Is it your husband? Is it the business you are going into? And the businesses now want you to come trained, but who is paying for that training? So there are just too many barriers to getting into the industry. And then when you get into it, what is the path for growth? There's no well-defined path. Am I going to stay a driver forever, as compared to other blue-collar jobs where you know that, okay, I'm going to enter as entry level, I become a manager, I become this. But as a woman, we naturally tend to want to grow. Am I going to be a driver forever? Am I going to become a chief driver? The industry is not ready for us, or it has not been prepared for us. So until some of these barriers are removed, or even identified for removal, I don't expect too many hands to be raised.
Thank you, Thelma. Let's applaud her for those insights. Andy, I think the next time we touch on this particular subject, we need to put Thelma on the panel as well. She's got really good insights. So thank you for that. So guys, thank you for your attention. I guess we would continue with the next session with Andy.
Please, let's clap for my good friend and brother, Kelly Anyomiche, with the Challenges Ghana. Challenges Group Ghana, right? Awesome. So we're actually about to just wind everything down and then make way for a cocktail networking time. It's been an exciting day, isn't it? I know your energy has been sapped and you're low on energy, but please put in some energy into your system. It has been an exciting day, isn't it? I can't hear you. It's because of my voice. Let me match my voice. It has been an exciting day, isn't it? I love it. Please give yourself a round of applause. I think this has been our best audience yet. Trust me. Not to say that we've had a lot of Partnering for Change editions. It's just a second. The first was very great. But let me give you credit because you deserve it. There was an innovative approach of having the event, actually. Last year, we didn't have the breakout set. Last 2 years, we didn't do anything like breakout sessions. So it was a lot of direct conversations, pressure on the stage. Who was here 2 years ago for Partnering for Change? Give me a wave. Oh, nice. We still have, people are becoming family members. So you always show up. Thank you. You're part of our clique, our tribe. Thank you so much. So it was direct two-part panel discussions, and we're fortunate to have Bernard Avle moderating one, and then our very good man and chief. He's right. A very great, very own Solomon Chum also moderating the other one. At this point, we are going to take reflections. He's wrapping up. I spoke into the microphone. Okay, so I'm getting cues now. What we are going to do now is to take reflections from the 2 breakout sessions, right? I'm working with my people, so you'll be seeing me watching this way. Don't fret, please keep engaging me, okay? Look at me, don't worry about what I do like this or that. That's not for you, that's for the other person. I hope we are in the same room. I hope we are communicating. Thank you. Awesome. So I believe you've had a very exciting day with a lot of conversations that we'll all carry to our various organizations and then find a way to really solve the challenges of women economic empowerment. I mean, challenges confronting that idea that we keep promoting and saying that we do need economic empowerment of our women. And also the systemic change approach to the conversations. We did Scania West Africa breakout session with support from Challenges Ghana. And the conversation was dismantling barriers, right? Empowering women in the emerging industries. And we know what is confronting women in that sector. I mean, there's just very handful women, you can count them, the number of women that participate in that sector. So unemployment is on the horizon. We're always talking about it, but there's opportunity in that sector. So we need to do something about it. So I believe that those that were a part of the breakout session with Scania West Africa, you have a lot to take home, right? And you have a lot to do with us. Please, our doors are very much widely open. Reach for Change is here on a collaborative sort of approach to problem solving. So please reach out and let's tackle this. And of course, our very own partners from Scania West Africa, we are currently going through a co-creation. I'm sure Harun had mentioned it during the breakout session that we are thinking through some things to do. So we'll be knocking on each and everyone's door. Of course, it's a family sort of engagement, so you can be rest assured we'll be reaching out to you. Okay. So, Kofi Baini, you ready? Okay, awesome. All right, so we are going to take quick reflections from the 2 breakouts. Some of us were not privileged to be a part of some of the breakouts. I lost track of all the breakouts. So I personally, I need learnings, right? I want to know what happened in those breakout sessions. And I believe some of us here also, you may be curious what conversation might have taken place at the other breakout sessions. So help me welcome Till, who is actually the program lead for the Widu program at GIZ, who is going to share a few learnings inside from the other breakout session.
All right, good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Till, and I'm working as a advisor and coordinator of Widu in Ghana. And I think we had a very interesting session. Our goal was to present Widu, get everybody on the same page, and then hear from all the actors, how do you connect to, what are your thoughts of what we're doing? And I think the very encouraging part about that is there was a lot of interest in what we're doing and also a lot of interest in how could be connected to that. So people said, yeah, it's very important that we have this type of a change. Somebody said co-creation is very important when we want this to work. So I think for us to come together and exchange about it is a very good first step, and it's a very good basis. Because we better understand what do other actors in our sector want? What are their selection criteria? What is important for them? And we have a number of things here. For example, for commercial banks, it was important to track the transactions of the business and see what are the commercial data, like the revenue and the turnover. And also another point was mentioned, how important it is to look at the different sectors that we're operating in. So also a lot of positive feedback that people appreciated the data that we have, the technical support that was being accompanied together with our financial support. I think there's a lot of things to connect to, and looking forward to have a chat with the people who expressed interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Till. Awesome. So let us welcome the other breakout session with Kelly and Yomiche. Going to share the learnings and the insights from that one.
All right, thank you, Andy. So we were in this breakout room, the bigger room. Yeah, I was in here with my amazing people. So guys, if I miss out anything, please remind me. And we heard about the empowering women case study concept that Scania has been doing since 2017. Amazing work. Throughout the work so far, they've been able to train over 100 women. Started off with the partnership with GAFTI, where they trained 73 women to run their buses. But out of that, other opportunities came, and eventually they got into training women to drive trucks. And even within this room, it was clear that there was some excitement about the initiative. People were quite intrigued about not just the concept, but the impact that it's been able to make. You spoke about how not just people driving, but it goes beyond that to impact their families, and other women got excited about it. So that was reflected in the room. Beyond that, I found the NECA lady, I've forgotten her name, Cecilia. I found Cecilia's approach to it also quite exciting. Cecilia thinks at her age, Harun, you might have to context that later on, but Cecilia thinks at her age, she might not be able to get the training to drive the truck, but she's willing to be an ambassador and champion this for other women to be part of it. So that was great. But I mean, it was also very clear that there are some key issues that need to be looked at. Beyond the concept being great, beyond the first phase and potentially the second one going well, there are other issues we need to pay attention to and have conversations about. Number one is financing. It's very expensive to do this. Thelma was telling us that you spend averagely 10,000 cedis training a female, one person, and they spend about 50K euros on feeding, as part of that budget. So it's not very small. It requires a lot of funding, and that's where we might need to think through a sustainable approach of scaling this up. So I'm happy that, where is Charles? Charles from FMB was asking a lot, what should the banks do? What should we use our money for? There is an opportunity here, so please bring the money. Bring the money so we can use it here. But beyond that as well, there are also other issues around the subject of training and hitting the road. So I didn't even think about the washroom idea you brought up. It never crossed my mind. And those things can only come from females, because as a man, I would have just thought, okay, you're training women, they're about to drive a bus. There we go. Let's pick people and let's drop them off. But here she is thinking about how do they co-share washrooms with males? If a female becomes pregnant, how do you handle such a situation? Who pays for it? All those very nuanced dynamics that we couldn't go into details about. So I think those are opportunities that we need to leverage. Let's speak through it. And I think this can be handled with partnership. I think the long and short of this is that we need to partner with people who have either the solutions or have the mindset to try and resolve those challenges so that this can be scaled up properly. I think it's a really exciting conversation, and thank you for putting this on the list.
Thank you so much, Kelly. So I'm getting the feeling that we should have more of these formats when it comes to partnering for change, right? Having the breakout sessions, and then also diving deeper into the issues that confront us, particularly also from the partnership perspective. How could we explore some areas of synergy to drive this inclusive growth, building equitable systems to address the challenges confronting women, and of course the emerging industry, which is something that a lot of people are not talking about, the emerging industries. I mean, transportation, engineering, technology, all these industries from the World Economic Forum. When it comes to the future of work, we understand that to actually build systems that are inclusive, we need to begin to look at these areas, right? And in our context, I mean, the youth population is skyrocketing, female versus male population. Yeah, there's a lot for us to do. I was speaking to one of my very good friends who is also in the room, and he was like, the challenges that confront us and the workload, man, we have a lot of work to do. So we can do it, right? I need some energy. We can do it, right? Give me some. We can do it. I can't hear you. This energy, we can't use to kill mosquito. Please, let's do it again. We can do it. Amazing. I want to say a very big thank you to all of you for spending half of your day, the half-day program to this time. We appreciate all our partners, Scania West Africa, GIZ, Widu program. Thank you for backing us for this second edition of Partnering for Change in Ghana. Let me do quick acknowledgement of some people in the room who are still here with us. We have with us Professor Justice Baule, the Dean of University of Ghana Business School. He's also serving on our board. So thank you so much, sir. I mentioned your name, but before I realized you are nowhere to be. It's good to have you with us. We appreciate you a lot. And also, there's also the Startup Discovery School. Reps from the Startup Discovery School. Let me acknowledge Natasha Dazi. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us for this conversation. They are building a venture studio now. It's something also that we would definitely be exploring this partnership conversation, taking things forward. Let me also acknowledge the presence of, I think I've mentioned Sustenance, the Beamer group, who is also supporting us and also always excited to be a part of these conversations. Thank you. And your good selves, please give yourself a round of applause. A massive one. A massive one. You've been an amazing audience. I was trying to do a comparative analysis of our previous audience versus this audience, but I won't do that. Everybody has been amazing. Okay, so there's a time for us to receive a closing remarks. Whenever it gets to this point, I'm like, when will I see you again and all these things? But I'm sure the next person, my team lead, my colleague, Kofi Baini, is going to share. Now they say it's a closing keynote, not closing remarks. So let's brand it. Closing keynotes from the Ghana Program Manager. Over to you, Kofi.
Thank you, Andy. Hello to everyone once again. I guess Andy has made my work very easy, actually, because he's acknowledged everyone and the partners that have supported us. So I would not bore you with all the, usual formalities, but I want to say thank you for making this happen. Without you, this wouldn't have been possible. Without GIZ Widu, this wouldn't have been possible. Without Scania, without the BMW Foundation, without Coca-Cola, who've supported us. We are really, really grateful for the support that you've given us. One of the things that came out very, very clearly from these conversations is a mindset change. And what I want to dwell on the fact is we all live, aside the fact that we are professionals, we come from households, we come from communities, we have children and brothers and relatives. And so mindset change actually begins from the home. So we can sit here and we talk about a lot of the things that we see wrong in the community and things that need to change. But one thing I learned from my leadership class is that make the change you want to see where you are. And so if you have a son, how are you raising him to be able to respect women, to be able to work with women, to be able to encourage women, to be the kind of person that we want to see in our communities? So that is where the change really happens. I know there's a lot of difficulties that we've seen here and challenges that we're trying to address, but trust me, in my 10 to 11 years of working with social entrepreneurs, I have seen real positive change. I have seen people move from idea stage and now are impacting communities outside Ghana, in Ghana, so the change really happens. So we need to be able to be the change where we are, and I believe that it will have the ripple effect that we seek to see. With that being said, I would like to, again, thank all of you and wish you a happy Independence Day tomorrow. And feel free to continue the conversations. I know a lot of good networks have been made, and a lot of good partnerships has also been made for our partners as well. So thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Kofi Baini. It's that time of the hour. we want to close us off with cocktail networking. But before that, let's take some pictures, right? Let's take pictures. So I want to have here the partners first, right? So GIZ, Scania West Africa, and of course also the speakers and those that have also contributed to engaging us on the conversation. So let's do it this way. First, Sophia Brithos, CEO Reach for Change. Till, I can't find Tom with you again. Did he vanish? Doing the interview. Okay, so can we come up? And then Scania West Africa. And then after that, we'll have Amalate, Professor Jampo with them, right? Which camera are they looking at? The camera seems to be a lot. Okay. And then Ama Prof. And then we have Reach for Change team also probably joining, and then we'll have some of the speakers. And then of course, all of us, right? Everyone. I'll add us. Awesome. So let's have the Reach for Change team. Mr. Kwekwe Champong. Let's join the Solomon, Magdam, Elsa, Barbara, Doreen. Okay, Barbara and Doreen are actually handling the food matters. Yeah, it's very critical. Andy. All right, so awesome. Please hold on. Let's have our ladies join us, and then also our boss. Tom, oh yes, and Christian. Oh, you right on time. Awesome. So please, photographers, arrange us so I know it's. Are we looking good? Challenges Ghana, and then also we have to get the entire crowd. All right, so Challenges Ghana, and then so let's be here. The chairs are being moved, so maybe we can get the chairs to have some of the speakers on the high level. So please, team ushers, I need your help. Okay, so let's get. Great. So let's now arrange, and then everybody, you can join us. Everyone. Everybody, yeah, come up stage. Let's take a picture. Nice. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Yes. So let's. Oh, the stage is big enough. Awesome. So we'll get everybody. It's not big enough. Okay. So let's have some chairs. Let me say thank you to the